Oh yeah, I was like, Diablo Cody heard this at a pub trivia as somebody's team name, Lisa Frankenstein, and like
Yeah.
loved it so much that she just wrote a whole movie about it. And the sequel is going to be called Indiana Jonas Brothers because she also heard that at a pub
Yeah.
trivia
I
team.
love
It is
that.
It just
this
sounds like a pub trivia team name to me.
this movie screamed poster first.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More than any movie that I have seen in recent memory.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Not My Fantasy, the show where we talk about fantasy films and the lore that inspired them. I'm Cullen.
And I'm Hannah.
And today we have two super lovely special guests, Robbie and Amanda from Passages Podcast.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having us. I feel like the movie we're talking about today was super like passages coded, like passages adjacent.
Yes.
Our tagline says only the most unhinged media,
Unhinged.
and this could not be more bullseye unhinged.
This
True.
definitely falls into the lands between sensuality and comedy.
Yes. Yes.
This movie.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah, well, because
yes.
we were looking at our roster of like upcoming episodes, and then I had started listening to Passages. I found you guys on Instagram,
Bless you, child.
Yes,
Bless
thank you so much.
and I was like, "This is hilarious! This is so good!" Subscribed, and then I feel like this one works for Passages.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
I want the source material. I want the book. I
You mean
hope
the-
there
the-
isn't a book.
You mean the like hot off brain first draft that Diablo Cody did?
Yeah,
Right.
I
Like,
don't think there's a book.
immediately-
On the way home last night, my husband was with us, and he's like, I feel like they just started filming and just
Mhm.
wrote the script along the way and just
Absolutely.
let it we're like, we'll just figure it out.
They're like, we want
Yeah.
tanning beds that electrocute you.
Yeah,
Yep.
We want a cool graveyard.
Yep.
And we want tears that smell like shit. Go.
Yes.
That's
and
honestly my
one
favorite part. Yeah.
Yeah.
cringe musical number.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah.
I know.
Slow motion.
yeah. It was a ride, especially after Twilight, which was so slow, and Beautiful Creatures, where I couldn't track anything. I was like, I can track these events.
Oh yeah. You can track
Yeah.
these in your sleep, babe.
Yeah. These
I
And
events
I
are
think
smacking
Diablo
us in the
Cody
face.
did. Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
why any of these things are happening, but I
Nope.
understand them as a sequential consequence of each other.
Sure.
Yes.
This was a motion picture.
It was
Truly.
a motion picture.
What did I send? I said like it certainly was a movie.
Yeah, I was
It
like, it had a
was-
beginning and an end. And then our friends were like, did it have a middle? And we were like, it had no discernible
Yeah,
middle.
Amanda said no discernible middle, maybe technically a middle.
It
in
had
that there
a
was
middle, yeah.
Yeah,
And that
There was
But
thing
no,
stuff
like,
happened.
between it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't have an act 2. It had an act 1,
Yeah.
act 3.
Like right as I was like, I don't know if I can handle more of it. It ended, and I was like,
Honestly, the
perfect.
length.
Oh,
Give him an
yeah.
Oscar for the length.
Beautiful. Yes. A perfectly timed
category.
film.
New
I love
category.
that.
No,
Like-
honestly,
New
there
category.
should be.
New category: movie that didn't wear out its welcome. Like it got
It
out.
knew when to quit.
It got out while the getting was good.
So we're talking about Lisa Frankenstein.
Yes, a brand new movie. Usually, we ask,
Like-
"Oh, have we seen this before?" We all just saw it.
We just
Yes,
saw
we
it.
just
I
saw
want to
it.
know, since it is starring the kid from Big Daddy,
Which
who
Amanda
pees-
had an existential crisis about in the parking lot.
I did. I
on the
almost
way
started
out.
crying. I almost
Our
started
friend-
crying.
Our friend Ala was like, "That's the little kid from Big Daddy," and Amanda
Yeah.
goes, "Shut up."
And I like burst into tears. But I want to know if his contract was the same as when he was a child actor and he had to split the role with his twin brother.
He has a twin.
Yes.
Yes.
Is his twin still in acting? Does anyone know?
I
Yeah.
think so.
Exactly. So he was just he was Trevor in the After series. I remember that because fucking Trevor. That was a meme. And then I think he just got married to a Hungarian
Sure.
woman.
Oh, a woman? Oh.
Yeah, no.
Boo.
No
He's-
offense.
No, we famously hate women on the show. Pass
We
it back,
hate
so
women.
hate them.
Judith is really rubbing off. Yeah. I think pop culturally, Dylan is viewed as more cheerful and friendly, and Cole is like a little
He's
insufferable.
I
So
would
which
love
one
to
did we get? Did we get Cole?
Cole.
Yeah.
So he.
That's
so-
why they didn't give him any lines.
Yes.
Okay.
We got the goth one.
Yeah,
Yes.
he was on Call Her Daddy, that podcast, and he had an
Okay.
interview, and he kind of trashed his ex, Lily Reinhart, who played Betty on Riverdale, and who we stan, because no matter
Yeah.
what that show threw at her, she always played it convincingly.
I mean, the
Mhm.
picture that you have as your background right now
Yeah.
is giving Tom Sandoval from Vanderpump Rules like hard.
Yeah,
And so I'm starting to understand this like this aura of douche.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have I'm the famous I'm weird, I'm a weirdo scene from Riverdale. I'm in my Archie Andrews Riverdale high football shirt that
Oh.
yeah, I usually go as Archie like one day every Halloween season because it's an easy one.
Mhm.
Yeah, but it's not Halloween, it is Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day season,
Happy
everyone.
You and
Valentine's
yours.
Day.
Yeah. Some people say it could be any day of the year, but this is the only day of the year that they beheaded Saint Valentine. So
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
we have to
true.
honor that.
yeah,
We have
need
to honor
remember
his sacrifice because after he got his head chopped off, a bunch of chocolates and Pez fell out. So
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
It was a
It's
miracle.
pinata.
yeah, the first pinata.
I did not know. I did not know.
Yeah,
no,
Yeah,
yeah. See,
totally
we're trying to
true.
educate as well as entertain.
Mhm.
Thank
Yeah,
you so
That's
much.
Edutainment. It's really big right now.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's what we do.
put us on PBS. So
Yeah, we want some of that government money.
Yeah, we really do.
So quick trigger warning: there's a brief scene of non-consensual groping
Bro.
Mhm.
that I'm gonna just say, is in this movie.
It happened.
It happened.
Yeah.
It did
Yeah.
happen, and it's like, is it contextually relevant to the storyline? Kind of.
Yeah.
In
Kinda,
the one
yeah.
brief way in the end, but like, it was shocking, and then it was over, and then it was not discussed again until like 40 minutes later.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very like just a thing that happened. But to be fair to this movie,
That's the whole movie.
everything in this movie was just a
A
series
thing
of
that
things
happened.
that
That's
happened.
exactly that's this movie in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Later, I want to talk about intentionality in
Mm.
storytelling.
Mm.
Sorry, but we don't need to get.
That could be
Don't
a
give
theme.
Robbie that platform.
We're gonna think
Please.
about it.
I have a whole like PowerPoint presentation. I have a thesis. I have a whole thing worked up. So
I'll be ready for a 4-hour episode. Robbie will be defending his thesis on cinema intentionality storytelling.
Love that.
Great.
So
Right.
this movie, Lisa Frankenstein, was inspired based on only in the title. It's not accredited anywhere. Frankenstein or the New Prometheus by Mary Shelley, and I feel
Never
like
mentioned.
never mentioned. I feel like it owes
No.
as much though to Heathers,
Mhm.
the movie
Yeah.
and musical.
Yeah.
Written by Diablo Cody, Jagged Little Pill, the musical, Jennifer's Body. According to Wikipedia, it's the same universe.
Yeah,
I
didn't
could see
research-
it.
I can see
She-
it.
She has said that, and I think that's cute and
Yeah.
unsupported in any way.
Yes.
I mean, I can see it in the same universe as Jennifer's Body. Just the supernatural element is
Yeah.
like
Sure.
Yeah.
enough.
Sure.
Like, this is a world where things like this can happen and have happened because we already had
Yeah.
this
Yeah,
demon
right.
wench eating young virile blood boys.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I wonder if Juno, also written by Diablo Cody, is in the same
Absolutely.
universe.
100%.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh,
the Diablo Cody cinematic universe.
yeah.
Oh,
It's directed by Zelda Williams, an actor and director. She's acted in Teen Wolf and Jane the Virgin. I just have to point.
wait. Who is she
But,
in Teen Wolf? My
Caitlin.
husband and I just finished a watch through of Teen Wolf.
She's
Which-
Caitlin, who I do not remember a character named Caitlin. I've only seen the first 3 seasons though.
Hold
I'm
on.
just really
Oh, I
sad
don't
that
remember her.
this is part of the Robin Williams like Nepo baby legacy that made me very sad. I want to be clear right out of the gate. If you could not get this from my tone and all of the comments that I have made thus far, I enjoyed this movie. This movie was
Yes.
fun.
Yeah.
This movie is very bad. It is terrible.
I would go so
That
far
is
as
my
to say
opinion,
yes, I
and
would
it's
go so
also fact.
This is an undeniable fact.
Yes.
Amanda enjoyed this movie, and it is terrible.
The lights went up,
Yes.
and we turned to each other. We were like, I don't know if I loved that or if I
Yeah.
hated it.
So
Yes.
my husband had wanted to see it, but he didn't know, like, when we're going to the theaters, I had to watch this movie for the podcast. And he's like, oh, I want to see that. He pointed to the poster. I'm like, that's what we're seeing. And then, so his review, like, for context, his review of Wish, which I also made him watch for this podcast, it was nice. And his
Nice.
his review of this that was weird twice.
It's
Yeah.
so weird.
So
Yeah.
I
Go
described it
back
as
to the groping.
I have another disturbing fact. So I went to see
About
this.
the groping?
No, about the movie, about the context in which I saw the movie. I saw the movie, my normal theater, where I get food served to me. It's one of those places. I love it.
Mm.
However, there was someone there who was
We
seeing
got
this
chicken
movie
tenders.
Mhm.
with, I had spinach dip. It was really good.
No wonder I like the
Oh.
first act so much.
But
Chicken,
this
yeah.
person brought like an 8 or 9-year-old
Oh,
with
no,
them.
no,
No.
And I was like, we're maybe 10 minutes in the movie. I was like, I still think this kid's way too young to be here. Oh, and then
The
it kept
groping.
happening.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, this is, no.
I didn't even know what it was rated. We left and I was like, what was that rated? PG-13
I genuinely
or R?
Yeah,
still
it's
don't know.
PG-13. It's
And
PG-13.
Yeah, my
But
husband was like, it
it's-
can't be rated R because there was no swearing. But I was like,
Yeah.
it's kind of a shocking PG-13.
I agree.
Yeah, it's a very PG-13 movie. It's PG-13 in the way that a lot of horror films seem to be able to get away with PG-13,
Right.
like your Conjurings. Those are all PG-13.
Yeah.
Even though, but they are very PG-13,
Which
like
like,
really
it just
intense.
goes to show what we've always known is that these rating systems are so
Complete
puritanical and
bullshit.
arbitrary
Yes.
and
Yeah.
stupid because like there was more fucked up shit in what we watched last night than I've seen in a lot of R-rated movies because they said the F word, which I should have
Yeah.
asked. Am I allowed to say
Yes,
that on the
yeah.
show? Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, it is.
We should have crossed our I's and dotted our T's there.
Because
Yeah.
I'm gonna drop those fucks. It's
Yeah,
gonna happen.
you have to. I mean, my prime example is the fact that the movie Tangled is a PG movie, but Hunchback of Notre Dame featuring lust and genocide is G.
Crazy.
Fascinating.
Just crazy.
That's
Well,
shocking.
Whereas
Why is
Tangled,
it
really shocking.
PG because there's like a boob, a little bit of boob on a blonde girl. Not
I
like
think-
visible boob.
She's
like,
in 3 dimensions,
The
so her
violence.
body is more offensive than
because kids wouldn't want to see G movies in that time period in the 2000s.
oh,
Whereas-
come
a lot of
on,
it's
it was
marketing.
a marketing movie.
Yeah. Whereas Disney movies were expected to be G in the 90s.
Oh
Mhm.
fuck
Wow.
you,
Yeah.
Disney.
Do you guys
That's
know?
so
You guys,
dumb.
you know the story about the ratings, right? About why PG-13 got added. Do you know this story?
No.
No.
Okay, so PG, it went G, PG, R. There used to be this gulf between PG and R. So there are movies famously like Jaws and the one that did it was the Temple of Doom. The movie The Temple.
Yes.
The movie The Temple of Doom is technically PG, a movie that has a man's beating heart
Sacrifice.
removed from his chest, and which is an amazing scene, and really not that violent, but like definitely more violent than like Fox and the Hound
Little
or
Mermaid,
whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. The Fox and the Hound is an extremely emotionally violent movie.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
emotional violence is
Ruined
fine.
me psychologically forever, and I have not recovered. Much
Yeah.
We
like
don't care
seeing
about emotional
Lisa Frankenstein.
violence in this country. We care about like boobies and swears.
Mhm.
Mhm.
true.
The two genders.
Yeah.
So this film stars Catherine Newton, Cole Sprouse, Liza Subarano, Henry Eikenberry, Joe Kress, and Carla Gugino. It debuted so far at end of its opening weekend, 3.8 million.
I'm
Okay.
shocked. And what was it made for? Do we know?
Oh, did
Many
I?
What
bucks.
it was?
It was made for.
So I'm actually
Yeah.
surprised it did that
I-
well at the box office.
I'd guess like 15. That's just a guess.
million?
To make it,
If
yeah.
it's more
She-
than 6, I'm cutting off my foot.
It's gonna be low. It's gonna be
13 million. Yeah.
I'm pretty good. I was pretty close.
Oh, our theater was empty.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Was
Yeah.
this
Like,
opening
no one-
weekend? This past
Yeah.
weekend?
Yes, just
We were
opened.
in theater 8.
8, starting in theater 8.
I was on a
and-
knee scooter and I was sweating from how far I had to roll
Yeah.
to get to my fucking seat.
Okay,
We
I'm
After
appreciate
sorry.
your
rolling
Were you on the-
all
I
the
have
way to the theater.
I have this weird thing. I want to be on the left side of a theater. I
So
don't
Robbie
know why.
ruined my
It
life.
was my fault. They were all available. All the seats. The one that you wheeled in and
Closest
pointed
to
at,
the
and I'm
door.
like, no, you're way over here. And
Oh my god.
And then I
You
kept
should-
pointing at a different seat and he'd be
like,
like,
no,
you
all the way
Keep
over.
going.
I'm wheeling.
Keep
Keep
going.
rolling.
It was so
And you know
embarrassing.
why? So I sat you there so I could look at the back of your head while we were like, because I was sat behind you. I don't know.
I
I
get
should have
it.
just had you over there. Yeah.
Oh my god.
This is one of those movies that to me screams like we are shooting for cult status
Yes.
right off the bat.
Yeah.
This
Well,
is a
they're
movie that
Fine with
is
that. I'm fine with that.
I am
this is
too.
a
They're
movie that
trying
is
to
hoping
they're
that
trying to
it'll have
post off
legs.
of like the Stranger Things
Yeah.
kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could though what I appreciated about it because I thought it was fun and I felt you could feel that there were women behind the scenes
Mhm.
and because it didn't fall into Tim Burton-ness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It flirted with that like that genre, that like
it definitely did.
look, but it didn't fall into like I think Tim Burton's like kind of a hateful man, and like a lot of that is portrayed in like the world's view, especially of how women are depicted, but just in general. And so
Mhm.
characters that would normally just be like a shallow little bitch had a little more depth in something like this, you know,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
whoever wrote this wasn't totally taken over by a victim complex. So
They also liked their characters.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This movie was not super cynical. It was it was really, really cynical in a couple of areas.
Yeah.
Like the way that it discarded characters that were like the bad guy characters, the way that it was perfectly okay with murder in a couple of instances.
yeah,
Yeah.
I wish that had been more intentionally played for laughs, but
Yeah.
I
it
wish that
definitely-
there had been more of a lesson in the murders. Like,
Yeah.
Mm.
they get
Some-
Grope Kid later, but they don't really
I
teach
think there's
him.
one
doesn't
person who really
talk
gets
about it.
away. Goth Girl. I wanted her to get something.
yeah, Goth
I
Girl.
was.
She was
I
a
actually
bitch.
thought he didn't have a tongue, and so they were going to cut out her tongue.
Yeah,
And
that
and
was-
then it would have
She's
at
got
least
big mouth.
yeah, the woman who
Maybe
won't
that's a deleted
listen
scene.
loses her ear. The
Mhm.
kid who does evil with his,
With his
hand
hands,
loses his
loses
his
hand.
hands.
Woman who is
like
nasty
Jesus
with
would have
her.
wanted, yeah.
Like Jesus. It was, So
Yes.
essentially, it's a Christian story.
It
It's a
really
Christian-
is. It's a deeply
Mhm.
Christian story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though
Yeah,
she says nothing about the cemetery is Christian, that's to mislead you. Yeah.
Yep. Mhm.
Yeah. Overall, it did have that like. It just felt like stuff happened and there wasn't.
Yeah.
I don't feel like we got a good picture of the internal world of the main character, which is what I really wanted. I really
Yeah.
wanted you to know, like, what are you thinking and feeling? It just seemed like she was acting and reacting, and I didn't really understand what she
She goes-
wanted.
Kind of crazy in the sense of like she really leans into this violence that is sort of lurking in the back, perhaps
Yeah.
because of her backstory, but they
The
don't
best part of the
explore
movie
that.
was when she
They don't explore
goes
that at all.
full Elvira.
Yeah, I
Her
wish we had
backstory
more
is-
of that internal
Her
stuff. yeah.
backstory is shocking, and
Yeah.
like it
It
makes
never
so
comes up.
it makes so much of her behavior understandable if the writer had actually linked that
Mhm.
origin
Yeah.
story. It's like that's a legitimate villain origin story.
Yeah.
A villain that we would be
Where
rooting for.
was the axe murderer?
Yeah. I have a
Oh,
theory on
Okay,
that.
I'm sorry, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
we are.
baby.
We are. Okay.
We'll get to my theory on who the actor.
But that's what this movie does to you. Is it makes I think I likened it to falling downstairs in roller skates, being physically accosted and
we're
beaten up by
starting
like a
here, but
Yeah.
now we're going here.
Desperately
God,
holding
oh
on to the
God.
railing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
slipping. Yeah.
After I got out of it, I felt like I had been beaten up by a mime. Like just
Mhm.
weird, just a like weird experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's place this in the context of the Frankenstein of it all.
Mhm.
Let's do it.
So let's go back to 1816. So this woman, Mary
Great
Shelley,
vintage.
yeah, very vintage, very coquette core, you know.
So
Uh,
aesthetic.
Mary Shelley was in a competition with Lord Byron. John Polidori, who we just referenced in our Twilight episode, he wrote The Vampire, which helped establish vampires as stylish because Dracula had bad taste. And her future husband, Percy Shelley, so they were in a competition in like the Alps. Two could write a scary story. So
This
wrote...
story is so amazing. They went to like a vacation and the weather was really bad, and they were all like, "What shall we do with ourselves?"
Scared
have
the
a
shit out of
writing
each
workshop.
other.
Let's write some of the most important science fiction and horror of the century. All right.
Forever.
Yeah.
Ever. I think it's the most important horror work ever written.
Yeah. I mean,
Easily.
they say that so the published posthumously in 1820, published with her name in 1821. It's often called one of, if not the first science fiction novel. And they say she invented the genre. It's a huge cultural touchstone. Hannah did read the book for this.
It's so good.
It is really good. And what's interesting is
Not an easy read, though.
No.
I listened to it. Listening to it, and also then in the context of this movie, it really is just like name only,
Literally.
There's just
it's
like,
got nothing to do with it.
There's like the use of the electricity. That's kind of a motif.
There is a storm with a huge ball of lightning.
And then it's also the idea of like, well, who's really the monster?
Yeah.
Frankenstein himself kind of becomes a monster in the book because he rejects the creation, who then becomes a monster, and
he makes it a monster.
And so it's sort of like, I guess you could consider both of our characters in Lisa Frankenstein monsters because they both really revel in this violence. But yeah, it really is name only, but I'm glad I listened to it.
Yeah, everybody should at least go read like the Cliff's Notes like plot, because its plot is so interesting and its themes are so important.
There's a story within a story within a story in it, which is one of the things I love about old books.
We read it in like high school.
Yeah,
like 10th or 11th grade English.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So definitely recommend.
Yeah. It reminds me of Scruples in that way. The story
honestly, it's exactly like Scruples.
I
invented the bonk buster genre and changed the literary and frankly cinematic and frankly creative world.
Wow.
Forever. Scruples, the Frankenstein or new Prometheus of the bonk buster.
The Frankenstein of bonk buster.
The Frankenstein of smut. Smut.
I do love that Judith doesn't give a shit about like anything that we would consider like writing guidelines, everything that you're grilled into your head in creative writing class. She doesn't care, and that's liberating.
My theory is that she was not even literate when she started writing Scruples, and so she had no baseline from which to be influenced because she'd never been able to read. It didn't. I'm
convinced it had no editor.
That's fair.
Her husband edited it and was like, she'll yell at me if I take that out, so I'm just gonna leave it in.
It's like the later works of J.K. Rowling. Like, there's nobody's editing this person anymore. They're just putting whatever they want in here.
Sure, Jan. Publish that.
Sure, whatever.
Put that out there. So mighty. Frankenstein, inspired several films. Starting the silent era, but most iconically in 1931, there was a film version starring Boris Karloff as the monster, and that kind of established that classic Frankenstein look that became like a Halloween
Peter Boyle
staple.
in Young Frankenstein is the best Frankenstein ever.
Yes.
They don't. What's also interesting is in the book, they don't really describe him that much. He's just so fucking ugly.
Yeah.
And it's like, he's so scary and big that like I don't even want to describe him in detail. So that's interesting that like
that's what we took
the
from
motifs that we have is really from those older movies.
Yeah,
but that's the value of getting to it first.
Yeah,
because whoever put that film out first, that means your adaptation of this monster is now like the litmus test. That's the iconic.
Yeah,
really set the standard, and because it was so good. It was so well made and made such an impact. It like set the standard. Like a lot of people, that's what they think of. They know, a lot of people don't know the original plot of Frankenstein with the whole framing for murders and the cat and mouse
Yeah.
game that the two of them play.
That's
A
really
lot of them,
what it is. It's like a journey.
a lot of them don't think about how smart the monster is. He's always just played like Boris Karloff as this like, you know,
yeah,
yeah, it's like
He learns
more like
French,
a zombie.
You know,
He learns French.
He
manipulates people.
Ingolstadt, and so then, but he traveled and he ended up in like Germany, like in the Bavarian area, and there was this French family, and he learned French, and like
he's basically Billy from Scruples.
Yes.
He was sent abroad. He learned French
because he was so enormous and unlovable.
He learns French just by listening to people speak French, like Billy.
Like Billy, he becomes a fashion icon. He's fat shamed most of his life.
Yeah. But the movie established that the creature was sewn together from corpses, that it was shot by electricity, that the mad evil scientist has like an assistant, often a hunchback, that later became known as Igor. Which reminds me of, we mentioned this earlier, talking about the rating system, but Hunchback of Notre Dame, which a lot of versions of that are based on the old movie versions, not really Victor Hugo's work.
Actual story.
Yeah, which is kind of for the best in that case.
The original is rough.
Yeah, like if you think the current ones are racist, ooh.
Yikes, yeah.
The first sequel to this movie was The Bride of Frankenstein, which introduced like the iconic look of the Bride of Frankenstein that would later be played by Fran Drescher in the Hotel Transylvania franchise, you know.
Or Megan Mullally in Young Frankenstein on Broadway.
Exactly. So
do you guys know how
Young
much
Frankenstein
of that
is my
movie...
favorite movie of all time. So
I was going to reference that because I wrote it was an iconic parody of specifically this era of the movies. I mean, that's probably that was my first exposure to Frankenstein, was Young Frankenstein.
Same. Obviously. I saw it before I saw any of the other Frankenstein movies, and
that's great.
I had it on VHS, and I went through a phase when I was like 11 or 12 where I watched it every single night. I would not go to bed without watching Young Frankenstein, to the point where like my parents had to replace my VHS because I had just destroyed it because I watched it so many times.
Yeah, have you ever worn out a VHS or a Laserdisc like Amanda has?
I literally have. And it was that one.
And my mom being like, don't tell your friends I let you watch this. Because for her, she was like, inappropriate stuff goes over their heads, their kids, you know, like they just think the Frau Bruca is funny, you know?
Yep.
And so but those movies, the old, like from Universal, like there were a ton of sequels that eventually devolved into be horror flicks, and then you get Frankenstein versus Dracula, and then that's how we kind of like the monster gets conflated with just being Frankenstein, and then you get like Igor, an animated movie about the henchman, you know, like you get all these spin-offs. You eventually get there's a planned movie for the Dark Universe. I
don't think that's happening.
Is that still a thing?
No, because the Mummy tanked so bad. And what was it?
But then the Invisible Man did really well.
Was that actually supposed to be Dark Universe, or was that sort of?
So the story goes that they had this plan for like, Marvel's doing so amazing. What do we got? Old Hammer horror monster movies, the Universal creatures. We'll get them out there. What if the creature from the Black Lagoon can be like the Frogman and the Aqua Specialist, and Frankenstein's the Muscle, and like they had this whole plan for like a superhero team of these really
so bad. Was in it too.
I would have eaten that up. I would have loved that.
Russell Crowe was playing.
Don't love that.
God, what? Jekyll and Hyde. So he was in The Mummy with Tom Cruise. That's how they were starting
Mummy.
it.
Okay.
Wait.
The Mummy was
not
quite
the
good.
1999 classic.
No,
film.
Hannah is a stan of that movie. Yeah,
Tom Cruise.
The Tom Cruise movie. Oh, so bad. Okay. But and then
Mel Gibson, and you've got the boomers back in the palm of your hand.
Who would Mel Gibson as the Wolfman?
Angelina Jolie was supposed to be somebody.
No. Oh gosh.
But I think
Johnny Depp was supposed to be the Invisible Man. So it's just like all the most problematic actors in Hollywood were going to play these monster characters.
This is like teaser level.
It is.
Casting.
It's like geezer teaser. Yeah. So then the Mummy tanked. and then they
Yeah.
were like, fuck, this whole Dark World thing is off
Abandoned
to a
ship.
Dark
Yeah,
Universe not
and
happening.
then they handed off the rights to Invisible Man to Blumhouse, who did it really
Yeah.
smart. They're like,
Yeah.
let's do this for like 50 million instead of 300 million. I bet we
Yeah.
could make a profit off of that. And
Not the one with what's her face from Handmaid's Tale, who's
Yes.
a Scientologist. That movie
Yep.
was really good.
it was
Yeah.
great. And so now I think they're pivoting to doing them like that. They're going to take the Hammer horror, or sorry, not Hammer horror, but the Universal classic monsters and hand them off to like mid-range, low to mid-range budgets and re-envision them that way.
And I think
So,
they're
fingers crossed.
Yeah, I think that makes more sense. And they're building, I think, in the new Universal theme park, they're gonna include a Dark Universe section, which is gonna have the monsters. Which to me,
How are
that
they
makes
gonna have Invisible Man? Is like just someone gonna grope you in a dark room while you're like waiting for a shitty, like piss smelling water ride roller coaster situation?
Yeah, you nailed it. That's exactly
Oh,
right.
okay.
Yes.
Well, then you know what? Fuck this.
Close your
Two-part pass.
eyes.
Sign me up.
Close your eyes.
Yeah.
Sign this waiver and close your eyes.
Yeah, which I think those properties make more sense combined as a theme park area than as a film universe.
Yeah.
But let's jump into this movie. My first question is a direct quote from the SpongeBob special, Gary Come Home. Who is
Gary,
this?
come back.
Yes. Who is this Lisa person?
Seriously. Who are you? Why do we care about you? What is your purpose? I still don't know.
I love her.
Maybe you can. Okay, Hannah.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is,
I got her.
We briefly talked about how like there's not a lot of internal stuff, but I think Catherine Newton's play on her was very charming, even though it's like, I don't know much about her, but I'm into watching this. And
the cast was great.
We're watching her with Taffy is really like the first time we see her, and them together is really charming. And then the setting is so charming. Like I was just charmed by it immediately. So I think the opening was great.
I think they could have done so much character development for both Lisa and Taffy they really only spent like 8 seconds on the juxtaposition of Taffy is the popular cheerleader that everybody expects to be a real bitch to her new stepsister,
but isn't.
But you know, I think they set that up really well in the opening party scene when Taffy is telling everybody, you know, trying to only tell one person about like the dark axe murderer story, but then everybody's crowding around because it's a great story.
Yeah.
But I think they could have done so much more, even like immediately after, if there had been some kind of conflict between Taffy and Lisa in that moment where like Lisa stumbles over and is like, what the fuck? Like you're telling everybody this story that's like, I literally didn't speak for 4 months. I don't tell people this story. And you're out here telling people this story. And then they could have had a tiny little scene where we get to understand their dynamic a little better, where we can see Taffy like actually be apologetic. Cause I think she would be. Knowing her character, I think she would be. That would have taken no time whatsoever.
Oh, none.
Created a bunch of character development and then ushered us into what happens next. Lisa's upset. She wants to impress this guy. She accepts the spiked drink, and then all of this bad shit happens. Like that little added bit of contextualization could have done so much for this movie. And I do like Lisa, but I just don't know her. I don't know her at all.
So can I just say, I'm 1,000 years old. I am the oldest man in the world. So when I start saying these things, this will sound grandpa-ish, and I understand that.
Women shouldn't be in film.
When you let a woman write a script, they don't know what to do. Their uteruses get out of control.
They get their periods and they can't think straight.
Yeah, exactly. No,
they bleed all over those pages.
They do.
Not that. But there are certain beats to story structure that are done and are always done, and it can feel really cool and liberating when you like a movie like this goes like, screw it, let's do whatever. Yeah, but there is a reason that those beats are in there, and I really feel like what this movie was missing more than anything was the I Want song. Like at the opening of a story in a Disney movie, it's Belle going through the streets. It's I can't wait to be king. Part of your world. I want money, whatever Aladdin's thing is.
It establishes the entire motivation of your protagonist.
Yes. What does the character want? what is their vision, and then it gives the writer of the script something to like drive the character along. And this movie had the most just teeny little, like, she's like, I really think this guy's bust in a cemetery is nice looking. He looks hot. I wish I could meet like a goth Victorian. It was just, it didn't have an I Want song that was compelling. It didn't have an establishment. And then it didn't give her any drive. She didn't do anything. She
reacts.
She didn't protag. She did not. Intentionality.
In that car scene. Well, I guess first we do have to talk about the weird Tim Burton opening.
Yeah.
I almost completely, I just saw it. So
Amanda was wheeling herself in, so they actually didn't see this.
Oh, okay, interesting. So it's
please
like
explain. Please describe it to them.
Well, I guess I don't want to call it Tim Burton because it's more just like
it's based on that original like stop motion crashing into the moon.
Yeah.
It's just like a real piece of original cinema.
Yeah,
yes.
This was done with
like
just cutouts. Just animated
it's like just
cutouts.
cutout animation. And so basically it's sort of the story of the guy in the
how
graveyard.
he died, right? Yeah.
So how he fell in love. He was a musician. He fell in love, and then she left him for another guy. And then he basically had an accident. He was struck by lightning.
Yeah.
And died. And then his headstone said "Never marry."
Which when we first see that, I was like, "Oh, a woman's buried here," and then I was like, "Oh, wait, that bus."
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's sort of how it starts, and then we literally go into live action 1989 absurdist world.
Cut. Yeah.
But
so
like that scene in the car with Taffy and her talk about like it's sort of like her I want is that she likes the bust guy being all like he's probably romantic and stuff because he's from Victorian era.
It's the fantasy.
But then she's also like, oh yeah, I do like this guy at school. And so she wants this guy, but later on we do learn that she kind of just like wants to have sex.
Well, I think that in that beginning part, so I feel like they were trying to establish her type because then, she has this like fantasy version of the dead guy, and then starts talking is when pressed is pushed to talk about her living crush, who is not a jock. He's emotional. He's cerebral. He's a writer. He's all these things. That are like
he's cerebral. Oh, he's in a wheelchair.
Yeah,
that was funny.
Literal tears.
That was great. There are so many great moments like that.
Yeah,
I think that's what this movie did more than anything. Is it made me feel so frustrated because so many things were like, I love that, I love that, and it just didn't like ever land any of those. The fact that she does not build herself a boyfriend, like.
Yes.
Frankenstein. Why
That's
does it
what
just
I thought the movie was
happen?
gonna be.
Isn't that already a Disney Channel movie? The one where she makes a computer boyfriend?
Oh,
yes,
gross.
but do that with like corpse parts.
Yeah, that's what I thought this was gonna be because that's the tagline is like they find body parts along the way, and I thought like, oh, it's build a boyfriend, but
I was
that's what I wanted.
That would have been wonderful.
When she sits down and says, "Here's my type of guy," and then it just falls into her lap via divine intervention.
But then he turns out to be a real disappointment, and then she builds her own. Like that would be an amazing movie.
Yeah,
it's just such a like
he sleeps with her stepsister, and it doesn't turn out the way she wanted, so she builds her own boyfriend who turns into a bloodthirsty monster. I would watch the
like I'll do anything to get the right parts to my boyfriend because I don't give a fuck anymore. Something early on. Like the axe, like her mother being axe murdered.
Yeah,
the guy at the party groping her. The guy she likes she's like, you know what,
with
her
fuck
stepsister.
Those
are all motivating moments.
Yes, motivation. That key factor.
That just come and go so quickly in this movie without really any follow up.
Yes,
or story development, and then suddenly people are having their dicks cut off.
Real quick, can you put Bean's little face up to the camera so they can see her?
I can try.
Beans is the cutest little baby in the world.
Oh my gosh, scrunchy face.
She does not.
She's so sweet.
Camera shy.
Hi, Beans.
Beans is a star. Yeah.
Beans
so
you're gonna be a star, Beans.
You're gonna be a star, Beans. But that's fantasy protagonists need to protag. The magic, the fantasy, the zombies, the lightning. I wanted her to be in control of those things, to be
Mhm.
trying to find those things to get I wanted her to build a big ass lightning rod in a green thunderstorm and be like, I read a book like this one time, like fuck it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read Frankenstein.
I read Frankenstein.
And
Let's see if this
we
works.
read it in class. Yeah, I
and then
feel
she
like
gets zapped and she gets those white streaks in her hair for the rest of the movie. And I
Yeah.
just
I mean, I think as it stands, the creature is more of a protagonist in that they have their desires motivate the story.
Yes.
And we'll talk about how Lisa's family life reminds me of a character we're about to cover pretty soon on this podcast. But yeah, she's going to this party with her stepsister Taffy, who I had to Google find and replace. I thought her name was Daphne until I was like, oh, her
shake
name's
that Laffy Taffy.
yeah.
That Laffy
Yeah,
Taffy.
her license plate is Laffy T.
Mhm.
Oh, I saw that. I was like, I don't know what that means. I
Look
thought
at you catching details.
Yeah.
I was eating chicken at the time.
I was kind of also obsessed with the car. I was like, God,
I
love car. I love that
the
red
turf,
car.
How they embellished it and put like a little like scene
it's like a little
on the
scene
dashboard.
of Hawaii. There's like a
it was cute.
So
it was cute. The little detail. I love the pink house. The details of the sets were really cute.
Yeah.
Also, they shot it very 80s. It had a
and
lot of
they did it well.
Flat comedy angles. There was a lot of like flat lockdown shots with people like walking through them or falling into them. Great stuff. Very
the
era
style
appropriate.
and the cinematography were good.
Yeah.
It was, so she's going to this party before she just got a little electrocuted by the tanning machine. But they're going to a party and she reveals she has a crush on Michael Trent, who's a hipster. She talks about Bachelor's Grove, where they say satanic rituals are happening, but she just goes and talks to this tombstone. She makes etchings of him. She gives him her mom's rosary. And she's kind of morbid when I wear it. And she wishes she was with him. And so Taffy's like, okay. And they arrive at this party and she's telling her cheerleader friends the tragic backstory. She unlocks the tragic backstory that her mom was killed by like an axe murderer. And then 6 months later, her dad meets and marries Taffy's mom. And she said, everything worked out. And I'm like, I immediately was like, oh, her dad's the axe murderer.
That's what I think. I'm like, this
I thought the mom was for sure. I thought it was the mom. I thought the mom had, stepmom had guns on the dad. That's why she swooped in so quick.
Well, there's nothing to establish that she would want him that badly.
I know she hated his ass. It didn't make sense that she would marry him at all. Can I just say, it's like Chekhov's gun. If you put a gun on stage behind the characters, it has to go off. If you have an axe murderer with a mask on, like a slasher in your movie,
we need to know who it is.
You have to back up and show us who it is. We
never found him. Anyway, here's this totally different movie now.
We need the Scooby-Doo reveal at some point.
Well, I think here's my theory. I think they're leaving it open for a sequel.
I agree.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Lisa Frankenstein's
2.
Lisa Frankenstein's 2.
2.
Also, TOO.
Brides of Frankenstein. They become a polycule. Yeah. So Lisa is talking to Michael about her poems. And I love that Hannah just called her mean goth girl because that's what I like. I don't know her name. She's the big titty goth GF, but evil. Yes. And she shows up and is like, "Oh, do you want to drink this?" And she's like, "Oh no," and she's like, "Of course you don't party."
But there's also no motivation for her to be mean to Lisa.
I think she sees Lisa as competition for Michael.
Sure, but they don't establish that. They don't develop that. There's not even a scene that shows her like looking at Michael in a lustful or wanting way. You just assume they're friends.
Oh, I could
tell. I feel like this movie is but if it's not made at least a little bit obvious, if I have to question this as a 36-year-old woman who's read a lot of dumb shit and seen a lot of dumb movies,
Amanda is a dumb
then it's
movie
not
connoisseur.
good enough. Then you're not going hard enough on this storyline at all. Why does she hate you? I don't know.
Yes.
I enjoyed.
It actually seemed like you'd have a lot of things in common. I bet you'd be friends.
I so thought they would join forces.
Me too.
Well, I enjoyed that as the reverse of the Tim Burton the Tim Burtonness is that the goth person is a lot of the like more like people quoting Oscar Wilde, like, you know, the alternative people are revealed to be relatively shallow, and like the shallow ditzy cheerleader has a lot of depth to her.
Yeah.
Definitely
And
the deepest character.
yeah, and I think that's I love that twist. Because sometimes some of the meanest, shallowest people I have met are people who think they're very alternative and very interesting and unique, and you're like, oh, ooh, you, ooh.
Yikes.
Yeah, self-pain and darkness and like gothy moroseness goes one of two ways. It either makes you more empathetic or it makes you really, really nasty.
Yeah.
Like when you're in pain, you become good or bad, like not in the middle.
Not in the middle. So she is tripping. Taffy comes by to scold, specifically Michael, for giving her the PCP, and she's tripping like crazy, and we meet Douglas, who
The
is her
lab
lab
partner.
partner, who instantly I was like, oh, bad vibes, bad, and he's leading her away, and I was stressed.
I did like how they played against type with him too, though. It's not physically dominant.
Yeah, he was a short king, and I was like, you ruined it for short king.
Yeah, he's a short
2020.
knave.
Yeah.
As soon as they were going into a bedroom, I was like, oh god damn it.
It's like when he put her in the bedroom and then did not leave himself.
Yeah.
While she's stripping. I was like, uh-oh.
Oh, I clocked that, like, oh, he's gonna be bad because he's a little dweeb, and so he can know this is his only way he can get with people, as if they're not fully physically and mentally present.
Right.
Incel energy.
Yes.
Yes.
So he starts touching her, and I was like, oh no, and then she was like, no, and like gets up and leaves. And it's not nice to leave people on. But I was like, I was so stressed.
Finish what you started. Like,
yeah, I'm glad that didn't escalate.
Yeah, I'm glad he didn't pursue her.
I thought that was a perfect, like, it was nasty, it was uncomfortable, but like it didn't linger on it. It was just like a thing that happened. Again, I do wish that it had more substance within the story,
or at least lingering impact on her, because I wanted to know. You assume
we could have saw him again at school later on,
exactly,
and like,
had an
give him
awkward
like a dirty look.
Yes.
I wanted to know how the main character, who by this point I do care about, I wanted to know how she felt about this situation. How did this affect her?
Awful, because it's a really fucked up thing to happen. But yeah, I wanted her, the character, to have the opportunity to really tell us,
deal with it somehow.
This is why this is so fucking awful that this happened to me.
Yeah, I was expecting school to have a react like that, to imply that she went and slept with him, and then him to tell everyone that
he lies about it. That would have been again escalation of consequences, conflict. You know, we needed conflict. The only one we got was she and her mother, but we'll get to that.
She walks home from this party through the cemetery, right? But it's like during the day when she like tells the statue, like, oh, I wish I could be with you, right?
Yeah.
Like in that. Okay. So she's walking through during this crazy storm.
Yeah, she flees the party in this crazy storm, still tripping balls.
Yeah.
Green lightning, which is awesome.
Yeah. Maleficent core, and the tomb is struck, and maybe she is by lightning, and she goes home and she has like this vintage silent film inspired, like old Frankenstein inspired dream / trip.
Yeah, which is beautiful. Maybe my favorite part of the movie.
It is really cool because he's also like in his statue version.
Yeah,
and
it pans to his face and it's the bust.
It's so cool.
And her corset is like a t-shirt. What's this on?
The costuming is really quite good.
Yeah.
And so she is woken up by Taffy, who is pretty understanding. She's like, oh, your knees. She's like, oh, I tripped. And she's like, oh, sure. You know, I've
said that before.
Yeah.
She's like, me too.
In the dream sequence, like toward the end, her mom's picture kind of moves and talks to her and says, you better wash your hands. And then I was like, oh. And then like she like moves the covers. Taffy moves the covers or something. And she had her hand down in her pants. Yeah. And I was like, little
dream diddling.
And I was like, oh, girl,
little dream diddling.
Yeah, it was so funny.
There was a huge missed opportunity for the lightning strike to happen while she was in the cemetery. Like,
I thought it did.
Yeah, she winds up in the cemetery and makes this like wish of like, I wish I could be with you, or is that
Yeah.
earlier? Anyway,
She
That was
earlier.
It
Yeah.
said that earlier. Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I feel like
But
it would have been
I
better if
also-
it was immediate. Like she makes
I
a
also
wish
think
and the
that
lightning comes
moment
down.
should have had, yes, those things should have been together instead of a past moment.
Mhm.
Yeah. There's some weird structure happening in this movie.
And
So
she-
much
Diablo,
weird structure.
we needed a second draft, honey.
Taffy is understanding, but she's like, my mom's mad about the mirror because during the trip, she
Right.
breaks the mirror in the bathroom. And so they, everyone else is just chilling, and we meet Janet, who is absolutely heinous.
I loved
Yeah.
her.
Carla
Great
Georgina looks
actress.
so
She
good.
did such a good job with
Yeah.
the very little that she was, I'm certain, given.
Oh yeah,
but
absolutely.
she's the conflict.
Yep.
So I'm like, yes, all right, finally the conflict arrives. It's the them versus her. She's the angry villagers, sort of thing.
Yeah. And she's like, you're a vandal. Like, you need to stop babying her. No one babied me when my dad blew up. And everyone's like, and she's like, and I turned out, fine. And they're like, eh. And she's like, you need to parent her. And he's like, oh, I guess like pay for the mirror and clean it up. And she's like, you destroyed my precious moments.
Oh my God, the precious moments dolls. I can't.
Yeah.
Which are later used as projectile attacks.
Yes.
I really like that.
I had verbally said in the theater, it was basically after I went, oh no, not the precious moments.
I did the
chucking
same
them.
thing. I said the same thing. I was like, precious moments figurines.
Yeah, she's obsessed with these little precious moments.
She's gonna get in so much trouble.
And
so apparently, like Lisa's kind of destructive.
Well, it's
That's
hard
just
to
being painted by her stepmom.
I think it's like she tripped once, and this Janet has it out for her. She wants her gone.
Forgot it.
Yeah. This is where I was gonna say this reminds me of Cinderella. Flash forward to next month on this podcast.
Very wicked stepmother.
Very wicked stepmother. And also, like in a lot of old versions of Cinderella, the dad is around. He's just like useless.
Absent.
Yeah.
Like psychologically.
Yeah.
Useless, yeah.
And that's
my wife got murdered. I can't be bothered with any of this.
An absent father can still be physically present.
Yes.
And not be part of your, like, an active part of your life.
Yeah.
I like that version of Cinderella better.
Chewing
it's
grape
sadder.
nuts.
It is sadder. It is.
Well, it's way more fucked up because it's like, this is your parent who's watching this happen to you and not protecting you at all.
Yeah. And so
he's not providing any kind of safety for her. Her dad sucks.
I like
so
the version
bad.
of like, here's a broken-hearted person who's kind of like given up.
Yeah.
That's really tragic.
But that's not the version that they had in Lisa Frankenstein.
No,
Lisa's dad is just a fucking loser.
Yeah.
Like a pathetic chud.
Grape
I can't
nut
with him.
eating loser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like grape nuts. I am really old now, and so I always liked grape nuts.
I've always liked. Well, confession.
I've
tried
always
to lie
since
and say,
1935 when they dropped them for the first time.
He has been eating them since 1935.
Yeah.
I have. Yeah.
So she's taking up extra shifts at the dry cleaner where she does sewing, which I did think was a fun little detail.
Tailor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Michael drops off his jacket, and mean goth girl is there. She's giving giving the bad Cinderella musical vibe. And she's like giving her the finger and like just being mean. The owner is dragging her like, usually she can take the Saturday shifts because she can't get a date.
She got no
The
friends.
owner is so
flat chested.
She's flat chested and she's stinky.
I was like, oh god, the 80s.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was hard for me to suspend my disbelief because I'm like, yeah, this girl's a weirdo, but like, she's super hot. There's no way
super pretty.
I've been friends with her. Like,
yeah,
this is not realistic.
But I mean, she was new to the school.
That's
why I was like, oh, she doesn't have friends because she's new and she's a little weird. But like, this just happens before.
This guy makes a judgment that like, oh, it's because she's flat chested. No one wants.
Yeah, because
and she's weird and a loser. But it's another conflict that doesn't go anywhere. It's just somebody is mean to her, and another girl comes in and she is also mean to her, and then her crush comes in.
Yeah.
Stuff happens. Things happen.
Things are happening. Yeah. She goes home, and the scene, honestly, any scene with Janet fills me with rage. So she goes home, and the family ate dinner without her. and they ordered pizza.
With
So
The
they-
vegetarian
Yes.
options.
with every
There's a
single
little meat
meat
on this. You can pick it off. and
Every
they
single meat
open
that
the pizza
exists
box.
is on that pizza.
And they only saved her one piece.
Oh,
That
was
was what
so
got me
funny.
angry.
And then and Janet's like, it was for a coupon for Orange Crush.
free
So
orange.
you can
I
pick
was
it
like,
off.
okay, in '89, what is that? Like maybe
50
$1.10?
cents.
30 cents. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for
Just
the
so,
cheater, yeah. It's
so
like,
petty. So petty.
yeah, what a
Clearly,
bitch.
clearly petty.
Such a
yeah.
bitch.
Yeah. And they're like, we're gonna see a movie. Taffy's like, come with
Right.
us. How
Oh,
could
did they
we
say
be a
what movie it
Brady if we
was?
don't bunch?
Oh, they did.
I did
me
not
think about
And
recognize
it was a
it.
real movie too.
Sure.
Shit, I don't remember.
I know
names, but
that
they say
Day of the Dead was playing on the
it wasn't a horror.
No, it was
No.
something like something hour.
Look who's talking.
Look who's
Yes!
talking.
It's
it was Look Who's Talking.
John
That's right.
Travolta and
Christy Alley.
Christy Alley,
Chris-
yeah. I was
That
like, I
And
movie
know
was
what
Bruce,
it is.
Bruce Willis as the voice of
Yes,
the baby.
Bruce Willis is the
Mhm.
Bruce. Yep. Yeah.
Is that a fantasy? I think that is. I think that counts as a fantasy
Because the baby
Probably,
talks.
'cause
because the baby
talks.
is smarter
Yeah.
than it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Taffy's like, how can we be a Brady if we don't bunch?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like she's doing
That's
her
a
best.
good opportunity. That's a good opportunity. I want to ask the rest of the panel here. How do you feel about the Diablo Cody-isms? The like, how can we Brady if we don't budge? And the like home slice and the Diablo Cody-isms, because she filled this movie full of like really cute, clever little turns of phrase. Sometimes I feel like they take me out of it. Sometimes I love them. What do you folks think about it?
I love Diablo Cody so much. And I think like it's funny because we're talking about like how we have these issues with like the logic of the world. And I think this is a movie that just the world has no logic. And I think that's on purpose. And I think it is one of those things where you just have to totally suspend all your disbelief and just let it happen to you, just like Lisa does.
I like it. I think it's fun and it's
yeah.
like similar to how I like speak and communicate.
Yeah,
So
know,
I, like, relate
quote
to it.
Juno all the time.
Oh,
So
yeah.
This was like right up my alley.
Mm-hmm.
My Kirsty alley.
If you will.
Yeah.
Right? It was right into my Bruce Willis.
Ugh, that sounded so
Oh,
gross when you said
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
Hate it.
Well, fuck, I just
Boo.
did
Boo.
Yeah, okay, to be honest, I thought this movie was very weird, but I very much
hate you
enjoyed
so
it.
much. Boo, Amanda. Amanda's mean to me.
No one's gonna boo me. I'm untouchable, bitch.
She's got beans in her arms.
I got a cat. I'm holding an angelic little creature that keeps trying to rip my hair out of my
So
scalp.
unfair. I just made the same joke.
I just enjoyed it. I was just like, I don't even know how this is gonna end, which I did appreciate. I did not
Yes.
see that ending coming. But so
It had an ending?
So ludicrous.
The movie just ended.
yeah,
I wish that it was
I thought it was just over suddenly.
genuinely. I just wish that it had showed its hand a little sooner and had been more fucking unhinged sooner.
yeah.
Mhm.
I was
Yeah.
ready for it. I'm like,
It is weirdly a slow burn to get to the
A
really
slow
weird
burn, but
stuff.
with no character development.
Yeah. That's
I don't know how
that's
she
weird.
pulled that off.
Yeah.
it seems impossible.
I know. I don't think I've ever seen that happen before. It was shocking.
Not for El Diablo.
All right, so this is our like setup, and now
Yeah.
we're into the like.
Because they go to
Stuff.
the movie. Not before the mom is just dragging her because she's like,
Ugh.
"How are you tired from just like sitting in a shower
Sitting all
scene like an
day.
old lady?" Like Taff is like doing 3-hour cheer practice, and I'm like, shifts even at your local cleaners are longer than 3 hours,
Mhm.
and like obviously like that's work. And I was just like, this-
Sewing, like so meticulous and
Yeah.
strenuous and focused. It's bullshit.
yeah, honestly, it is my fantasy to kill this woman.
Mhm.
And so she's by herself watching a movie when the creature breaks in. Now, obviously, this is a trigger for her.
Mhm.
And so
Which is why I found it so shocking that she so quickly was like, "Wait, you're fine.
yeah, there was a leap
Come on
here
in.
that
Go
I was
in
like,
my
Yes.
closet."
I don't know what because she was like running around, screaming, throwing everything. Normal response.
nothing
During the precious
happened.
moments.
Nothing
Amazing
happened
slapstick
between the
scene.
two characters, the monster and her,
To
that like
change.
made her understand he was like safe. She just
Yeah.
suddenly was like, "Well, I guess this is happening, so let me put you in my clothes."
Well,
in
she
my
falls
closet."
on top of him, and then she's like, wait, he's not murdering me, or there's just like this beat.
It was
Well, he
so
throws
weird.
up on her, but what I thought would be like, oh, he's gonna have the rosary, right? But
He
that's
did.
not. He
But
does,
that's
but
later.
that's not
She
the
doesn't-
beat that
Not
switches.
until later.
Right.
You're
Yeah.
right. You're right.
It's
And so
delayed.
eventually she sits down, starts talking to him, and then it's revealed, oh, you have the rosary.
I feel like it takes her way too long to realize that it's him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely should have used the rosary to like be like, whoa, wait, are you
It's
the
me. It's me.
guy I wished on? And then say
Yeah.
something to like explain to us, the audience. Like, we desperately want to know what's going on with this movie.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to like this so much. So we were just sitting there going like, please tell us why she's doing these things.
They take too much time with showing the neighbors being so disdainful of her as they sit
Because
at
that went on forever.
9 o'clock in their front yard
in
reading
folding lawn
magazines.
chairs. Like
What is that?
I can't suspend my disbelief enough on
No.
that moment with these two.
The
fucking
real
old
fantasy.
folks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the movie is not intentional enough with its like, this is zany and wacky.
Yeah.
I almost feel like this would have worked better if it had been like claymation or something.
Mhm.
Like
Mm.
something to distance us a little bit more from reality so that these things that are so incongruous don't quite like make us go like, what?
But yeah, why did
Like,
we get the yard scene for 45 minutes, but we couldn't have one
he
line?
chased her around that house for 2 hours.
2.5
Yeah.
hours minimum.
And then the movie
going on
ended. It was
3, and then the
wild.
movie was over. But we can't get one reasonable moment of understanding of who
Mhm.
this person was to just establish that he's safe for her.
Yeah.
Like that seems so important given her villain origin story.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
Diablo
a good
hadn't written
point.
that part yet.
And it's like the
Yeah.
villain origin story of her mom getting axe murdered, to me, only really served. Sorry, my cat.
Soybeans. Yeah.
Served a solid purpose after the stepmom and the dad and Taffy come home, and the stepmom is then again like livid because Lisa
The
had
house is
destroyed the
fucking
house and
destroyed.
destroyed her precious moments, and then Lisa's like, whoa, somebody broke in. But I literally used these to fight this person off, which is true.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then like I took care of it, like, you know, he's gone, which isn't true, but like
Yeah.
we know what happened. And then the only thing that really called back to that story that we learned was her stepmom being like, oh, well, you're just going to regurgitate the same story because you got so much attention the last time that you said this
Yeah.
happened.
Murder
it's like, that's-
her.
And I mean, yes, it's compelling enough to be like, bitch, fuck you. We want you dead. And to kind
Yeah.
of let you see like, oh, okay, this might actually happen. But there are so many ways that origin story could have been linked throughout this entire movie. And that's the only one that is a clear line
Yeah.
Yeah.
of anyone else even acknowledging that this trauma had happened to her.
We
It also doesn't help that she describes the Hamburglar.
Oh my
As the
Yeah.
that
person-
was amazing.
And like it's funny, but it like when we're talking about it, it's like, yeah, it does defeat the purpose of like, did this axe murder actually happen? Because that actually is what it made me think, is like, oh well, maybe that's not what happened. Maybe her mom
Lisa
died
does
in
not
an
do herself
accident.
any
Yeah.
favor-
No, she
when it comes
defends
to
herself very poorly.
making
yes.
herself
Yeah.
like a reliable witness.
No.
I struggled with that a
Yeah.
lot. It's like, do we believe? Is this all real? What's
Or
happening?
did
to
her
this
mom
person?
just die of like an
Yeah.
illness or something?
But then
yeah.
I think what's supposed to tell us, no, that part's true, is that it's Taffy who told us that story,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
Lisa.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's from maybe like a more reliable
But it's again,
source.
this whole thing is so loose at best. Like saying that the storyline of this movie is loose is like
yeah. Bless your
actually
heart
really
for trying,
forgiving
because to keep
loose
us on track.
loose indicates that anyone is even attempting to tie things together, and there is
No.
like barely any attempt.
It was-
like, the string is all in the same room, maybe, but I don't know if
Yeah.
any of it's really tied together
It's
at
all different colors. It is
Yeah.
all over the place.
It's written like a Dickens novel, like one paragraph
The
at a
Pickwick
time in a
Papers?
newspaper. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
That's
like,
what I was thinking. Is like, did Diablo Cody write this with like a bunch of post-it notes and then just like kind of got them out of order a little bit?
Mush them
and some
all
of them,
together.
a bunch of them are missing. Like, we're struggling to kind of like get through the plot. We're through like 20% of the plot because it is a fucking shit show. The actual chronological events, and bless you for trying to like actually keep us moving forward through the plot, but the actual chronological events of this are so bananas that it made me think of movies from the actual 70s and 80s. Roger Corman is a famous filmmaker. He made hundreds of movies, and often what he would do is he would create a poster. He would make a poster that says, I just watched one. It was Vamp, as in like a vampire vamp, a vampire stripper. It's going to be a movie about vampire strippers. And he'd have like the tagline and the poster made. And then he would take the poster and he would go to producers and money people and be like, I got a new picture. It's called Vamp. It's about vampire prostitutes. And they'd go, perfect. Here's the money. And then he'd go find a writer and be like, we've got 3 months to make a movie.
Poster. Yeah.
Write this poster.
Isn't that how we ended up with Tammy and the T-Rex? They just had access to a T-Rex.
Yes,
and so
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly that. So this movie felt to me like somebody said, Lisa Frankenstein.
Oh my God, cute. Write that.
Right. And then I'll write that. And I've got 20 minutes to do it. We're shooting today. Amanda, what did you say? The thing about the quiz or the trivia?
Oh, yeah. I was like, Diablo Cody heard this at a pub trivia as somebody's team name, Lisa Frankenstein. And like loved it so much that she just wrote a whole movie about it. And the sequel is going to be called Indiana Jonas Brothers because she also heard that at a pub trivia team. It just sounds like a pub trivia team name to me.
This movie screamed poster first.
Yeah.
More than any movie that I have seen in recent memory. We went home after this movie and we're like, what the fuck did we just watch? That was so bananas. And I was like, did I love it or hate it? I think I equally loved it for being bold, for being a big swing, for being weird. And I equally hated it for missing all of the swings that it took. And then I went and I was like, let me look at it on Rotten Tomatoes. And at the time I checked, it was exactly 50%.
Which is perfect. That's perfect for this movie.
Because that's how I feel about it. Not that I think it's a failing grade necessarily, although I do. But I am literally split right down the middle in my admiration and frustration with the movie.
Yeah, frustration is a good word for it.
I think here's the thing is I don't think I even have that frustration. Maybe it's just because I am not super into horror as a genre. And so for me, I just came and be like, let's see what this is. And I was like, I had a good time. And I was interested in what was happening the entire time. I never lost interest. People in the theater laughed and reacted. And I was just like, fun, like this isn't the kind of movie I would normally put on for myself anyway. So it's just like, oh, cool. That was weird, but I didn't expect it to go that way.
This is exactly the kind of movie that we would put on for ourselves. And so it makes sense to me that we're so like incensed at how much better it could have been and how great the concept actually is.
And Diablo Cody was nominated for an Oscar for Juno.
Yeah.
And like so she is so capable of getting those beats.
She's a great writer.
Right. So it is kind of,
it's frustrating in that way.
But I do remember feeling frustrated about Jennifer's Body when I read it or when I watched it, because I was like, oh, like it's close, but there are a couple things that I'm like, if we could have done this a little bit, but
Jennifer's Body in the Diablo Cody like horror lexicon is a million times better than
it has teeth. I think a big part of why this movie maybe didn't quite get there for me is that it was a little toothless. It was a little
too cute.
A little too cute, a little PG-13. I wanted her to go full villain. I wanted him to be totally a monster. I wanted them to Bonnie and Clyde it through the last act of the movie. I was so excited for it to go there. Yeah, even more so. And I think
I don't know if that would land though with I think for a Gen Z audience, the fact that this movie doesn't follow,
I don't know anything about that.
The fact that this movie doesn't follow the Hays Code is a huge risk. Because Gen Z's big thing is they don't like a lot of sex, and they are very strict about what moral behaviors they will tolerate and making sure evildoers are punished and the good are rewarded. There's a whole thing on TikTok where basically they're Gen Z is trying to bring back the Hays Code.
But that makes me even more uncomfortable, though, because I felt like when we get a little bit further into the story and she and Frankenstein's monster or whatever are getting to know each other really well, and she kind of tricks him into getting her
Uh-huh.
off with the
Yeah.
vibrator.
Oh no, are we
But-
going?
and
Are we
I
going there?
I felt so uncomfortable. I was like, I don't like this. I don't like what she's doing here. This
Yeah,
feels
that's a-
advantagey to me. But the Gen Zs are fine with that.
No, I think that this was the edge, was that look, you can sympathize with immoral people who do
I
murders
guess.
because,
Yeah.
you know, like,
Yeah, I'm
and
fine
Taffy exists to make us feel bad about murdering the most heinous person we've seen on screen, you know, like,
Mhm.
so where we're at is, so the family comes home, but she also, his tears stink because she tells him, oh, I just wished I was in the ground with
Yeah.
you, not like with
I was
you
dead.
literally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and so she showers him,
with
you
that.
know, she like puts him in clothes, they do a
Yeah,
makeover
she's just got this
sequence.
zombie in her house.
Yeah.
He
And she's like, well, I
reeks, and-
guess I'll keep this stinky zombie in my
And
house.
these parents are so awful that they don't even notice this reeking husk in the closet of
Yeah.
their kid's bedroom.
I mean, they're not the worst parents. They're, oh my God, are they?
Are you okay?
So I'm just saying, in Supernatural Romance Month,
Okay.
the parents we have
Yeah.
seen are Charlie, who's very sweet in Twilight, but
Mhm.
Bella's parents ignore very clear telltale signs of abuse.
Of abuse, yeah.
Yes.
And then,
Beautiful creatures. There are no parents.
yes, his dad hasn't left the room since his mom died, and he does not care.
Yeah.
Did not see him in
Ethan
the
is
movie.
not concerned.
Mhm.
And then in this movie, we have an abusive stepmother and a neglectful
Yeah.
father.
So
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you're not a good parent, your kid will fuck a monster.
I guess you're right.
Yeah.
I
So,
so
watch out.
Or
I
like sort of
so-
assault a monster by making
Yeah.
him jack you off with your back massager.
Look,
Yeah.
wait.
We will have to get there because I have some more thoughts on that.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
want.
Yeah, lots of
I'm-
thoughts.
Oh Lord, so uncomfortable.
Yeah, so we have okay, so this is where her mom is like, after she describes the Hamburglar, and Taffy, usually who would help her out, does not, is kind of like, that sounds like the Hamburglar.
Yeah, because
Uh,
even Taffy's like, I can't help you here. This sounds ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she's like, you're selfish and ungrateful or evil. Like, how do these things make your father feel? You're just doing this all for attention. Like, you need to be taken away. I'm
Meanwhile, her
extra.
father's standing right there, like, I don't feel anything or care about anyone, especially my own kid.
And she's like, I'm an IP. I'm an intuitive person. Like, I know when something's wrong. Which
What is
this-
that called? That personality test thing?
She's
It's
not
similar to
she's not
Myers-Briggs.
referencing like Myers-Briggs. It's just a bullshit thing. It's like
Yeah.
saying I'm an empath.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't
thought it was the
IP
Myers-Briggs
doesn't like
thing.
come from something that we
Oh.
know culturally.
Yeah.
It's just a stupid
Forgive me.
I think
Yeah.
it's probably a
thing.
play off of.
It
I
is.
mean,
But it was my
like,
favorite
the
part.
Cancer.
metaphysical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a Gemini
It's,
rising.
it's very like I'm a Cancer. I have a lot of feelings.
Yeah. Okay, I have so much to say about that, but we'll get there. So she goes upstairs and is crying, and the monster feels for her. And Hannah has a couple notes about the book.
The biggest difference that I see between the book and the movie is with this relationship where like Frankenstein rejects the creature in the book, and they basically like the whole book is them hating each other. But in this movie, it's trying to be a love story, but like one-sided because really it's only the zombie that likes her. But
For no
the-
reason.
Hmm.
literally for no reason.
I'm sorry, for no reason.
No, like that's totally valid.
Because she wept over his grave or like missed
Doesn't-
him.
yeah, like he's
She
also
gave him a necklace.
a Victorian, and so like he doesn't have the same concepts of love and romance that she does in the 80s,
True.
True.
and so that kind of feeds into what we'll talk about with the vibrator scene.
Mhm.
But yeah, so like the other part is that like Frankenstein the monster, like they connect a little bit, but there's still just this hatred, and so but these two connect on a common goal.
Mm.
Yeah.
Which is, I think it's an interesting play for sure. But and I think
And that
that's
common
literally all we
goal
have.
it comes up very quickly here after the zombie starts hiding in her closet and the mother confronts her.
This is where Janet's like, or they were like,
No,
oh, she's
so
going to
she
Milwaukee,
goes
right?
she goes to school because Jan's supposed to go to
Oh,
Milwaukee,
yes.
but the monster dresses her. The creature dresses
Yeah.
her, and he dresses her a little more goth. And
I love
Taffy's
it.
like, You look good. Like all the other
Yeah.
girls are like, and she's like, oh, she's like, she could do pageants if she had congeniality.
Mm.
And at school, and Michael pays attention to her and asks about her notes. And then, but Taffy is like, scares him away. Like, oh,
Mhm.
get away from my sister. And they're kind of like a little flirty about it, but we don't really clock that till later. And then she's like, oh, I have a date tonight. Will you cover for me? You know, and that's where she's like, oh, dad's
Oh,
working late. She'll be
looking
in
back,
Milwaukee. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was with Michael.
Yeah.
Do you
Okay.
think that she banged Michael after the party? Because she says that thing about like the two of them are left
Yeah.
talking, and then she makes that joke about like her knees. She's like, "Oh, I fell and scraped my knees," and then Taffy's like, "Oh yeah, me too." And I was like, "Oh, who did you blow last night?" Like, and
Yeah,
maybe it was
maybe.
Michael. So
So the next day, so while this is happening there at school, Jana is listening to the show about the empathetic people as IPs and the narcissists who are out there to drain them of their kindness. And she's like, this is so me. Hashtag so me. And this is my favorite thing. I love because I hate when people say, oh, I'm an empath, or like the whole emphasis on like
yes.
empathy. To me, it was all we had that TED talk where they're like empathy versus sympathy, and everyone was like, no, 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 no. And I'm like, this whole thing is just gatekeeping kindness and making it about your feelings. When sometimes you don't feel like being nice to someone, but it's better to be, where it's like we're trying to complicate compassion, kindness, like things that are very simple, and make it like a superpower that you get for being extra sensitive to then make
caring
it
about other people is like a superpower,
and it makes it about you. It like
Yeah.
And so I loved this because it's like when something's wrong, and she's about to eat a worm that the guy
Yeah.
put in her cottage cheese.
there was
and
this whole
peach.
French
And
doors
melon or whatever the
scene.
fuck that was.
Yeah, there's this
Yeah.
whole like Marx Brothers scene where the zombie is wandering around in
She
her
doesn't
house,
notice at all.
and she fully
Playing
does
piano.
not notice.
Yeah.
Yeah, plays piano, and she's like, "What?" And then he stops, and then she puts it back on, and he starts playing again. It's very Marx Brothers, very like
she's
like French doors.
I'm sensitive. I care about others. And so she's upset. So then when she comes home, when Lisa comes home, she's like, I'm going to like put you away. Like you're evil. Like you're so ungrateful. And
She was
Lisa,
supposed to be out of town at this point. Yeah,
And
Janet
she's
was.
like,
But she stays home because she finds a worm in her food,
and she's
assumes
like,
Lisa did it.
Lisa's gonna
it was
get
the zombie.
Yeah.
Oh,
Greens.
greens.
And so she's like, I talked to the doctor. She stayed home, not because she felt sick, but to talk to the doctor about getting her committed. He's like, we're gonna put you somewhere far away, intense care, locked down. Because she's like, I didn't want to move here and like leave school. She's like, you're just so ungrateful. She slaps her.
She gives her the Cinderella's mom.
It was
speech.
bad. It was bad.
Yeah, and so the monster swoops in. He's Prince Charming,
Hits her with
bangs
a
her on
sewing
the
machine.
head. Yeah.
Yep, sewing machine.
Bye,
I think it's like a
bitch.
little kid sewing machine too, like my first sewing machine thing.
Yeah, hits her in the back of the head with a sewing machine. Stone Cold kills her. And
Blood
then
on the carpet.
almost immediately, earlier in the story, we have been shown that he is missing an ear. He
And his
immediately
hand.
stoops down
and points at her ear.
Cut her
he
ear
cuts
off.
it off. That's right.
Yep, he just
and
cuts it
hands
off.
it to Lisa and is like, sew this onto me.
Sew this
and
on, bitch.
Which completely muddles his motivation. Did he kill the woman because she was threatening his friend, or because he wanted her ear?
It's both.
She goes right for the ear.
I think it was convenient. He's like, oh, she needs
It's
to
both.
die. And then he was like,
Hey,
oh,
I
well, if
need an
she's
ear.
dead, I need an ear.
do think that it's written for us to believe that the main motivation
Agreed.
is his care for Lisa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed, but it muddies
It's
it.
both. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's supposed to muddy it. I think that's, part of the fun if the movie were good.
As Cole Sprouse said, everyone in this industry is a little fucked up, know.
That was a great Cole Sprouse.
Thank you. I'm a weirdo. So they bury her bachelor cemetery. She sews the ear on him, but it's not working. So what they do is they zap him in the tanning bed. So that just like congeals it. So now it works.
And
he's
like
less
a little
dead
less
looking.
gross. Yeah. Every time he goes in, he becomes more like human.
Yeah.
Which is a
it's
great,
interesting.
that's maybe my favorite
Little
like
detail.
idea is that
Yes.
he keeps getting so now and again, if we knew anything about the internal world of the character, it's like every time I add new flesh to him and put him in the tanning bed, he gets hotter and more alive and more like the boyfriend that I imagined that I wanted in the first place.
Yes.
So like maybe she's like a little willing to like keep doing these murders to feed him because he keeps getting. I wanted more Little Shop of Horrors. I wanted more her to be like, oh my god, if I keep giving my new hot zombie boyfriend new flesh, he gets hotter every time.
Come true. Yeah.
All my dreams keep coming true. He's fixing things for me. He's protecting me. I just feel like I just like got completely like led up to the edge of a really fun movie, and then they were like, no, you can't watch that one.
They dangled the pieces in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They hang out later. They're chilling after the murder. And this is when, because he sees the virus.
Which she apparently feels nothing about.
She feels nothing about. And she doesn't want to die a virgin. That's like a thing that she talks about.
Dear God.
And she's like, I tell you everything because he's like, I've only had sex once. Mm-hmm. She gets it out of him.
Is this where she also is like, oh wow, sleeping in the closet must be uncomfortable. You can share my bed.
My bed, yeah.
And so
they're flirting.
And then the next
they're getting to know each other.
Yeah.
I think she's such a narcissist, honestly, like the way she's written that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I don't think she even really considers it flirting. She's like, oh, here's this mime, this hot mime that like clocks
he
my
does
shitty...
not have a line of dialogue in the whole movie.
Yeah.
Well, until the end.
Until the very end.
Yeah.
She, here's this guy who is like willing to do these heinous things for her. She doesn't really think about him at all. They're in bed, like getting to know each other and talking, and she gets this like intimate detail out of him. And then what she does with that is like, well, I want to have sex before I die, and is like, I want to do it with Michael. And then he's like, this guy, zombie guy is like, what the fuck? I just killed your stepmom for you, and like, he didn't say it, but he like says it without saying it. And she's like which is so teenage coded that like kind of tracks.
And again, if the movie had that tone, she doesn't even
get that he's in love with you. This zombie man is in love with you, and you're telling him
he's the ducky of
you want to that guy who's fucking your stepsister. Oh, cool. Okay.
It needed more of that like John Waters intentionality of like, this is dumb, goofy stuff. I know that, you know that, so then we can all relax and enjoy the dumb, goofy stuff. But I always felt like I was like, am I supposed to be taking these motivations seriously? Like, what's happening?
Yeah, I think when we talk about a protagonist, I definitely want to contrast her with. I think this is more of an adaptation of Heathers than it is of Frankenstein, and I do want to contrast their relationship with JD and Veronica. But meanwhile, she dresses sexy at school, in like this red outfit, and Taffy's like in front of the dad, which shows you how out of it the dad is. Like, everyone at school is gonna go to Boner Town.
Yeah.
They're driving and they're like, oh, we haven't heard from mom, but like she's in Milwaukee, and she leaves a note, which for who we think is Michael, but ends up being Douglas, and
her nerdy lab partner.
Yeah, and so she leads him to the cemetery, being like, oh my gosh, I
can't stop thinking about the party. And,
I really love how you grabbed my boob while I was tripping,
boob and then forced my hand onto your crotch
while I was extremely inebriated.
And he's like, it may not feel as good because I was like on the beer, I was like feeling really good, like I was extra good at it. Gross. So he's like, touch me the way you did, and then before he can, the monster drags him in. She holds his arm,
holds him down.
Yeah.
And he takes the axe and knocks
his hand up to replace his missing hand, which has rotted off.
And he's screaming, so he just the axe kills him. And they throw him in the pit. I fell into the pit, and they
I fell in the pit.
And they go. I don't remember when we liked Chris Pratt.
I know.
I still like Andy Dwyer.
Yeah,
true.
That's fine. Andy Dwyer until like the last 2 seasons when he was doing fucking.
He's kind of a non-entity.
I like fat Andy. I don't like hot.
I like heavy set Andy.
Yeah. I want my Andy Dwyer to have as many chins as I do, and I will fight until we get that man back.
I mean, I think he's hotter that way, but that's just my own personal
I agree.
taste,
Anyway, different show.
Different show. Yeah. So they now he can play piano, and he plays some of his original work.
And she's like, cool, but do you know REO Speedwagon? Because I need to do this really cringe musical number.
Oh, that was brutal.
Oh my god.
I
Yeah.
I loved it. Anna fucking loved
okay,
it.
here's what I loved. I loved, like, obviously it was cringe, but after they're done, he's kind of like, it's almost like he feels conflicted or something, and she's trying to talk him out of it. And she's like, listen, like, you know, we needed to kill Janet because she was gonna lock me up, and you know,
This other
we
guy
just
groped
needed
me at
that
party.
hand.
Yeah.
So we just needed that hand, so whatever. But now that hand is a conduit for the talents of REO Speedwagon. And then there's like a pause, and she sits and she goes, okay, so I have to go change my pad. They're gonna be home soon.
That was
crying.
one of the funniest
Yeah.
one of the funniest
No one
moments
else
in the
was
entire
laughing,
movie.
and I was like,
so
guys,
that
out of
so
left
good.
field.
So
But
funny.
that was a big Diablo Cody moment.
Yes,
Like,
and it was
big time.
It was like perfectly played.
Heartfelt exchange.
Anyway,
and
I
now
have to
your
go change my
hand
pad.
can be
felt
used
like
for beautiful things.
It felt like Juno.
Okay, I gotta go change my back to pad. I'm having a heavy flow day or whatever. Yeah. It was a
so
hard
good.
comedy beat.
I literally wrote that down because I was like, this is so good.
It was very funny.
Yeah.
And again, it just needed a more consistent tone. I would have been fine with that vibe through the whole movie, but it does stand out as like, what the fuck did she just say? It's almost like the movie got more like that as it went.
And
I just feel like it needed a consistent
sillier.
tone.
Yeah, dialogue got
She's
sillier.
getting more unhinged.
Yeah, they found, and I think that they found the vibe of the movie about halfway through.
Yeah.
And I needed them. She didn't need to be that weird, but I needed to feel that vibe earlier in the movie.
Yeah.
So Taffy can't reach her mom right now. She's scared. Taffy is a little rude about it because she's like, you don't have to worry about your mom because she's already dead. But Lisa is also a little not clocking why Taffy would be concerned.
Lisa doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
No. She's literally checked out.
And like you said earlier, Taffy is the only thing tethering us to any kind of emotional response about Janet being murdered anyway.
Yeah.
Definitely
and
the
Lisa
best.
doesn't give a shit about how Taffy is feeling about her mom being missing. Does not care.
Definitely the best developed character in the thing is the sister Taffy who's missing her mom. She's afraid what would happen to her, and then meanwhile we're cross-cutting between a whole different scene.
Yeah.
So and that was Hannah's moment to shine.
Let's get through. So Taffy and her dad are on the phone.
He can barely describe his wife,
and she's like, you know how like the sun hits it just right.
When she was describing her hair,
it was so funny.
And then she's like, she
has hazel eyes, but she wears green contacts to make them pop. Yeah, she's kind of a bitch.
No,
that was amazing.
That was what, because she's like, yeah, she's kind of a bitch.
It's so good. But of course,
I love my bitch mom.
After she describes the hair like so beautifully and then hands the phone back to her dad and he's like, yep, it's brown.
It's brown.
The hair is brown. And then she like snatches the phone back out of it. That scene was so good. I loved that scene.
Good.
So good.
Oh, okay, we're doing the crosscuts between the mom
and the vibrator.
Looking for the mom and the vibrator.
So he is a Victorian man.
Yes.
And his idea of marriage, love, romance, sex, very different from hers. She even admits it. Like, you know, people have sex out of wedlock all the time in my era.
Even a bigger contrast than Vanessa Hudgens and her medieval night boyfriend.
So
in
not
the Night Before
only
Christmas.
Yes. So not only is he like learning about like electricity being used for things, he's also learning about vibrators. He's like using it on her back, which is like, you know, whatever.
Didn't they have? I felt like they had vibrators back then.
Well, yes,
they had
crank
dildos.
Operated.
Yeah. But you know,
it was orphan operated.
There
are orphans in a factory underneath the bedroom. Yeah.
Literally.
Gross. Anyway, but
It's
like
true.
she is taking advantage of his innocence in that way,
Yeah.
or that like she's like, you know, they also use it in other places, and it's
like he gets that's a sex act.
Yeah, I think he knows.
I hope so, because then
is...
suddenly we hear her coming from downstairs, but we don't really ever know
Well, the
how
other
consensual
two are like,
it was.
I can't find my wife. I can't find my mom, and she's like,
It's crazy.
It's so bad.
It was
the
so
cut between
it's
those.
so offensive and bad. But see, that's what I love. If they had just done that full chested, I would have been here for it. I will listen to or enjoy some evil, gross shit, but it just has to be intentional.
Yeah,
I wasn't quite sure.
That's a great way to put it. Like the intentionality, I think, is is missing that, like, what is it saying? It's just saying that she's like really selfish, really self-indulgent.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's also like we kind of already could tell that from the way she's reacting to Janet dying. And she's like, I think kind of later she cares about Taffy, but she doesn't really. Like, she cares about
Yeah.
Taffy, but she's not like, oh, I'm sorry about your mom. She's just
No.
like, self-preserving.
Do you think if we had gotten a reveal at the end that she had indeed axe murdered her own mother because her mother was being mean to her or something, or gonna send her away or whatever, do you think that would have vibed? Do you think that would have worked? Like,
I think it's
'Cause-
too real.
Yeah.
I almost wonder if it was cut from the
Yeah.
because she is very clearly sociopathic, like, throughout the story. Her lack of empathy, her lack of remorse for murders and violence.
Yeah, I
I
didn't
could
read
see it.
her as
That's
a
Dexter.
sociopath.
Like, that's what happens with Dexter. He literally witnesses his mother being murdered when he's like 2 years old, and that is
Mhm.
supposedly
just turns
his
off
onus.
his
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's
his
like
empathy drive.
it could it makes sense, but I think we've talked about, like, we're missing that
Yeah,
thread through the
'cause
rest.
There's
of
a
it.
thread missing for
I
sure.
read her as selfish.
Yeah.
Not sociopathic, because she has some empathy, but the main thing is that she is mainly concerned about herself, and all those people she feels like deserved it to a point. And it's like you see the logic with all of them. Now it's like,
And it's
I
like
don't know.
loose teenage logic, but there is
Yeah.
logic.
Yeah, it's
there.
it's
Yeah.
weak, but maybe it's there.
In Twilight, I said I'm anti dating a baby. I'm gonna have another strong take. I'm really anti murder.
Hot take.
Hot take.
Wow.
I'm anti murder.
So brave.
But I get why, she does. It's to pull out from the Brothers Grimm, like, Cinderella analogy, like that kind of like divine retribution violence against
Mhm.
these kind of heinous, varying degrees of heinous people. Like, I see where she's going. I do want to point out that Hannah had a note that said in the book Frankenstein and his creature don't have sex, and I think that's important that
Very
we
important to point out. Yes.
that we
I
remember
forgot
that.
about that note.
Fine.
So
Sorry.
Sorry.
The sexual
Severely
tension
missing
never
from,
gets resolved.
severely missing from the opening.
Yeah, sorry to Mary Shelley, but
Quite the
Mm.
opposite. The monster kills Victor Frankenstein's bride on their
yeah.
Yes.
wedding night or whatever, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So she wears Taffy's Halloween pageant costume to school the next
I loved
day.
it. Loved
And
it.
Taffy's
She's gone
in
full
tears.
villain.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's also earlier, the day before, Taffy had a hickey, and
Oh yes.
he was trying to throw Lisa trying to almost throw Taffy under the bus. And I'm like, was this revenge for the Hamburglar scene? I don't know.
Maybe.
But but yeah, she's like sobbing.
Trouble in Sister Paradise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's sobbing. She's like, oh, Sister's chair, I can wear it. And she's like, yeah, I guess. And she drives them to school, but Taffy is way too stressed and it's like, I'm gonna cut school. I'm upset. And can anyone drive Lisa home? And the mean girls
No one volunteers.
are like,
They're terrified of her. Rightfully so, it turns out.
Mhm.
Yeah. She's
Yeah.
like, I can walk home. And
Yeah.
they're like, oh, thank God.
Thank God. And so the police are running around. Michael isn't there. Because she says, like, oh, the police are going to go on to us, so I need to bone Michael. I need to have sex with
Yeah, I
Michael.
need to have sex with him now because I'm about to get arrested. and
'Cause
then
I'm
I'll
a-
be
They're
in jail
gonna
forever.
find Douglas's mutilated body
Yeah,
eventually.
Goth Girl is the one who's like, yeah, I saw them together. I saw her give Doug the note, and
Fucking snitch.
They're
and then
Snitch.
some other random person saw him at the lake with her. It's like, what?
Yeah, I'm like, you know what? Goth girl, if you actually cared, you go to the
Ugh.
police. You wouldn't go to your principal at school.
Right.
Oh, snit. And because
You low stakes little bitch.
and she says something about like her mom being murdered. Like, oh, people say she murdered her mom, and that sets Lisa off. And Lisa's like, check her bag. There's probably drugs.
There's
And
weed
Goth
in it,
girl
yeah.
is like,
Yeah,
how
I
could
totally
you
thought
snitch on me.
that's where I thought we were maybe gonna get a she actually did kill her mom. Like, it's because she mentioned it there, and I'm like, oh, that would explain why these murders are she's so
Yeah.
like unfazed by as we're
But
going.
I would have. I was like, if we found out she killed her mom, or that this is a dream or like a fantasy that she's
if
just
we
murdering
can't do
people.
that Dallas shit don't play.
I
no.
would have been so mad. I would have been
Yeah.
so. this is where you're fully like, this girl does not care about these murders.
She's lost it.
She's lost it. There is at one point someone says, "Oh, dress code violation," and she sticks gum on his book, and I'm like, he deserved it.
Yeah, she plays a little bit of like femme fatale.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's like,
Yeah,
I'm
which
Lena
is fun.
Duquesne. Yeah. And meanwhile, the monster sees this homophobic man bullying his grandson or kid, and he maybe murders him with the club from Lisa's car.
Takes
Knocked
his
him out with the
clothes.
club. Yeah.
Yeah, takes his clothes.
Yeah.
The kid is like, great.
Bye.
Bye. And so the creature, because she's like, I gotta leave because Michael's not in school. I need to go. I'm a dead girl walking. I need to have sex with Michael before, you know, the
See,
cops
this
so
get
sex
me.
craze stuff, I
It's
would have
so
been
unhinged.
fine with, as like this is her goal, is to have sex, you know, a la, you know,
Super bad? Is that
super bad.
yeah.
Yeah.
Dude,
Like,
right. If
if
that
it
had been her,
was-
I want.
She's like, I really like my mom dying really showed me that like life is short. I want to just
Life is
make
short,
sure I have
baby.
sex
Yeah.
before I die. If it's like if she's just like a horny teen from the very beginning, like it's a little
Oh, that would have
weird,
been great too.
great.
Mhm.
Yeah. Like, yeah.
I
So
want the perfect boning
Yeah.
Yes.
to go out on.
yeah, she wants the
that's just, like,
perfect
something
first
she
time.
Build a
comes to-
bone.
It's so weird because that, like, I want to have sex with Michael thing, I feel like is a realization she comes to after
Yeah.
Frankenstein's monster has, like, gotten her off
Yep.
with
Yep.
the vibrator.
She's like, that was
So
great.
they've
I
already had a
want to do that
sexual
with someone
encounter.
else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's like, I need to have sex before I die.
And he's
it has to
like-
be with
He's
Michael
like, what
and
was
not-
that? What did we just do?
Right.
Poor little bastard. Listen,
God.
I've been there.
So sad.
So as they're driving, he's kind of like looking at like he doesn't want her to do it. She's like, you only think about yourself, blah blah blah. Like,
Also, how the fuck did this guy learn how to drive a car?
yeah.
Listen, I can't get into it. We had a
It's super
medieval
easy.
man in The Night Before Christmas driving a Subaru. He ran over the fucking curb, but everything was fine.
Yeah. All these
All
people
right.
driving, yeah.
Yep, they just figure it out. It's
It's
so intuitive
super-
and easy to drive. So
Yeah, exactly.
So he is like trying. She's like, people have sex outside of wedlock all the time and have a contraceptive sponge. It's huge.
What?
It's huge. Oh my god.
It's
so glad that's not a thing
huge.
anymore.
And
and then it
he's
falls out of her bag later, and it is
Yes.
indeed huge.
It
He's a
is,
giant. It's a brick.
so he's like upset, and she's only like, you only think about yourself. Like, you need to basically like, this is where I feel like we're getting the Frankenstein's monster relationship, where
Mhm.
she sees like, you need to do what I want you to. And she goes into the house, does not question that it's unlocked, promenades up the stair.
Well, we also get a shot of the car.
Yeah,
Yup.
which
The
I
red
did
car.
not
No.
pick up on.
Oh, I did because I love that car. I want that
Mhm.
car.
I saw it
I want
too.
an old car.
Yeah, I
like that.
knew what was coming way before we
Mhm.
saw the car.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
she
Yeah.
left
Oh, yeah.
school. Michael wasn't at school.
Mhm.
Like, it's
Yeah.
like, okay, this
The
is gonna be the
hickey.
big climactic incident. The hickey. Like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
not.
When
It's
she
not,
wouldn't fess up about the hickey, I knew she was sleeping with Michael. That was
Oh,
Yeah.
see, this is
Agreed.
the twist that got me. I was like,
Mm.
oh, so she walks in and she sees he's basically like, I love the polarity between us because like you're so sweet and simple, and I'm like dark and
Yeah,
complicated.
you're a big dumb idiot, and you do theater,
Condescending.
and I fucking am the editor of the Lit Mag, and we
You
should
got no
belong
brain,
together.
and I have big brain.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, and I do want to point out that Taffy blamed him that the creature did everything, which he did start it, but she did go along. It's yeah.
Yeah.
But so she sees them together, and she's like, you to Michael. She's like, Taffy, or first to Taffy, she's like, you get everything you want. You couldn't let me have this one thing. But she's like, also, but to Michael, she's like, you want to be the only one who's cool and interesting. You don't want a girl who likes cool and interesting stuff. You want you to like cool and interesting stuff, so you can always be the cool one,
Mm.
which is a read to filth.
Mhm.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
100%
Oh,
accurate.
That's so true. Like those were the guys that I thought were cute in high school.
Yeah.
Yes, you did.
Mhm.
That was the. mhm,
Wow,
that was
Red
But
Bull
Amanda's.
on
not the
the
guy I
podcast.
married.
Nope, not the guy you
Well,
married.
that's good.
Mm-mm.
You learn, we learn, we
learned.
grow. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So the creature comes in, and
Comes in hot.
Comes in hot.
Literally.
Comes in hot, swinging
Yeah,
up, swinging an axe.
he's been in the tanning bed 2 or 3 times
Yeah.
now. So he does come in hot. He's looking good.
Yeah, he looks more human. He has the arm, the ear,
and just chops that guy's dick off.
Right off. And that slow-mo sequence is so good.
The blood
so funny.
It was so fucking funny.
I was
really...
grabbing my husband in the theater, just like, he's like, "Are you okay?" I'm just like,
on the wings of love,
yeah,
to a brutal axe murder to the genitalia, blood spattering on everyone's faces. Also, Cole Sprouse
Taffy just screaming, and it was so
the shit. Cole Sprouse sold the shit out of that, where he was like, "I can't, like, I guess I'm doing this. So like, I guess this is gonna happen."
He grabs that dick, puts it in like the pail, and walks out.
And
again, he was after the body part.
Yes.
And vengeance for her
and being jealous
at the same time.
Well, he's gonna attack Taffy, and that's where she first steps in, and she's like, "No, what are you doing? What are you doing?" She's like, and she's basically, "I'm gonna take care of this axe murderer." You know, she's like, "Go," and then she's like, she walks Taffy out, who's like covered in blood, and like,
she's like, "Okay, you go home. I'm gonna go deal with this."
Well, no, she drives Taffy
to the cemetery,
and then Taffy runs away.
Yeah.
Well, because first
the best scene in the whole thing is the chop to the conversation between the two sisters in the car while Taffy is covered in blood, completely in shell shock, and then Lisa Frankenstein like dumps this speech at the end that is supposed to like sum things up and gives her the like really great speech about like, you know, stereotypically like you would have been shitty to me, but you weren't. You actually cared about me. And like apologizes kind of for the whole thing, and like you made me feel like family. And then cut back to Taffy, who's like covered in blood, and, like penis blood specifically. And that was so unhinged. I'm laughing my ass off at this point because I know now the movie is just like fucking zany. Crazy, stupid lunacy. So now I'm having a blast watching the movie, and now only looking back on it do I realize that like it was full-chested, full-throated. It let me feel exactly what it was putting out there, rather than having me be like, what is this? Yeah, what is happening? There's a great Bo Burnham joke where he's like, I want my comedy. I want you to walk out of the theater tonight, go home, and think about my show, and go like, what? What?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think that quite worked, but this deluge of emotion between where Lisa finally lets us know what she's feeling, what she's thinking. That really worked. Yeah, that part worked.
She puts the rosary on her. Yeah. And she's like, you were kind to me and saw me when no one else did. You know, and so it is like she's like, and I love you. And so she
was like, fuck you psycho. You just killed my boyfriend.
Right in front of me. You killed my mom.
Yeah, she does.
It's just
killed
so,
my mom.
like, what a horrible, horrible person.
Well,
Lisa
I think
is.
This is where, for a second, Lisa connects that this stuff does affect Taffy. Right? And so she grabs the axe and she goes in like she's going to kill the monster.
Yeah, this has gone too far.
And then she's like, wait, like you did this because you love me. And he's like,
penis.
Yeah.
I needed a penis.
And she like feels.
Yeah, because she's like, wait, I don't get it. And then he grabs her hand and puts it on his crotch. And
which is an interesting mirror.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting mirror. It's exactly what happened earlier, but like in a whole new context. He's like, I have, and we learn that his genitals have rotted off of his body.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have a penis. He cannot consummate.
So funny.
Yeah,
I know, that was
like
hilarious.
I mean,
leg out. You can see her hand on his crotch, but it's like,
and then he does that through the whole sewing it back on scene, which is amazing and hilarious.
In general, his walk is so like dignified.
His physicality, his Victorian energy, and he stands there trying with his hands on his hips, like trying to look dignified and like faltering a little bit, but not quite. As she sews Michael's apparently now working genitals onto his body,
he goes back
so that they can consummate their marriage, or sorry, their it does wind up being a marriage. He puts the gummy ring on her.
Yeah,
we're gonna get married because I'm an old-fashioned guy and I don't chop off someone's penis and use it sexually unless we're married.
Yeah.
So
Good
Very
just like in
Christian
Victorian
values.
times.
Very
Yeah.
Edward
Yeah.
Cullen of him.
Yeah.
So Edward Cullen coded, yes.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Edward Cullen won't bang unless they're married?
Nope. Yeah.
My Lord. All right.
So also he may or may not have killed the cop at some point, like thrown
Yeah,
them in
they,
the
threw
ditch.
her in the
they throw her
grave.
in the grave hole, but I don't know if she dies. I
Yeah.
don't think that they killed
I
her.
hope not. I just choose to say
She
no.
just has a
Yeah.
concussion. She passed out.
Yeah,
knocks
I don't
her
think
out.
they
She
killed
can't
top
get
of
out
the
of the grave.
bodies.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's a limit, guys.
So then we're starting this sex scene, and I'm like, are they gonna make me watch Girl
Thank
X
God.
Corpse?
I didn't think it was gonna happen. I was
Thank
like,
God
okay,
they
didn't
it's
make us
gonna
watch
be,
it.
yeah, it's
There's
gonna be
a
like a
little
little
bit-
tease, and then it's gonna go away.
Yeah.
Little
we know
bit,
you
a-
did it. We didn't have
A
to
like
see it.
cockroach
Thank
or a
you.
centipede falls out of him
Hated
onto
that.
her. That was great.
And then she gets on top. Ladies go.
Yeah.
You know,
Go slay.
Mhm.
girl slay.
And
Michael's very nice, very full penis is put to use,
Mhm.
and, and then we move on.
because the penis is inside her, the one she wanted.
The one she wanted. She got, what
everything
she wanted.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we get this
Take
little
that,
graphic
Belle from Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah. We get this graphic, like it's a graphic, but it's not a graphic scene. It's
Right.
of like them on this rocket and they're on the moon, and
Yep.
it's like, you know,
Back to that homage
Referencing
to
Trip to the
early-
Moon.
Yep,
Yeah.
that, like,
And then the
silent-
rocket goes into the eye.
It's like,
yeah,
Oh,
we did
okay.
it. Now we're gonna walk off together.
The
Yeah.
train goes through the tunnel. The
Yeah.
pistons are going
It
on the
means
engine.
sex.
It means sex.
yeah. Passages were filled, and
Yes, they were.
That's legit. That's legit.
So then she's like, they're on to us. So she's like, this is how I want to go. She writes a note to
Can
him.
anyone explain to me why she realizes that, like, the cops are coming to get her? Her only way out is to burn herself alive in a
The
tanning
way
bed.
that she died was so stupid because my theory is the note is like instructions on how to resurrect her, essentially, that
Yeah.
she's leaving for
How
him.
would she know that? She doesn't know
Because
how the
she's-
She doesn't know how the resurrection happened in the
because
first
the
place.
movie makes no sense. I mean, she's pieced
Well,
together
Yeah.
the lightning storm, like have me buried, you know, then
Yeah.
like
Women in STEM.
Yeah, women in STEM. She's figured it out.
Exactly.
Okay. She's figured it
Yeah,
out.
and
So I think
tease
she
for
left
the
him a
Max,
note.
The Max Bronze tease, like earlier, is like
Mm.
it's enough that I'm like, okay, yeah, I could see that.
This
coming.
will kill you. But
yeah,
like she didn't need to die like that.
Why
she
did
could
she
have died in a
burn
much
herself to death?
I think again they wrote backwards from the tanning bed,
Yeah.
Yeah,
electrocution, fire.
I
death.
agree. I'm like they just had
Yeah.
to use the tanning
That's
bed
the
one more
motif
time.
that they wanted.
Yeah.
Honestly, you know what I think
Yeah.
it was? I think they desperately wanted to put her in the bandages to do the Bride of Frankenstein look.
Yeah.
Oh,
Which is so funny because they
Uh,
didn't do the hair, which is the most iconic
But they
part.
did the hair in the
she's-
dream.
Mhm.
They
True,
did, but
yes.
like so.
And the bandages worked to her advantage because after her resurrection, they hide her identity.
Yeah.
Are we to
But
learn
then
that?
it's like
are we to
you
think she
guys just
faked her
leave
death?
town. No.
No,
I
I
think
think
it was very clear that,
that she
was
died.
that she died. They buried her. They had a funeral because this was not their first time visiting her graveside when we get to the
No,
end.
you're right.
And then Taffy notices what's etched onto the grave is a
and
new
the
In
dad
addition.
doesn't.
And the
the
dad
dad
does
is
not clock it that it
so
says loving
checked
wife or
out.
whatever.
He
Yeah.
Beloved
does not
wife,
give.
yeah.
He's like, well, I got my wife's dead, my daughter's
My
dead,
daughter's dead.
my new wife is dead.
I
At least
really
I have
thought
this
I
nice
thought
daughter.
in that graveside moment he was going to make a move on Taffy.
I did.
I
I
did
I
did
thought
too.
it was gonna
Yeah.
happen. Like
Very
my wife's
briefly, I
dead,
was
my
like,
daughter's
oh.
dead. It's just you and me, kid. Let's go
Like
make
I was
out.
gonna I was
Oh,
gonna think, was
yikes.
this all like
then he's
a
like, let's go to
Lolita-
Fuddruckers. And
Yeah.
I was like,
Well,
Oh,
then I
and
thought
he
it was
killed
gonna
his
be
wife?
a reveal that he had killed his wife.
yeah, that this was in a
Because-
way
because
all
you're a
manufactured
sane-
by him.
Yeah.
Because you're a sane human being
Right.
who
I
is
wanted
assuming
there to be through
that the
lines.
fucking axe murder in the opening of the
Mattered.
movie would be paid off.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have to get that revealed. No. No.
Yeah.
No, let's go to
He's just-
Fuddruckers, and that's
let's
like
go
the
to
last line of the
Fuddruckers.
movie, basically.
yeah.
Yeah, because
And we
the
get
house
this little denouement, this epilogue.
Yeah, the shed burns down. Taffy is wearing the rosary and notices that it says devoted wife etched on the grave, and that other people have left flowers. And then, but Lisa and her monster are alive slash undead.
Undead.
Undead,
Yeah.
sitting on a bench. He's reading poetry. He can speak now. They cut out Goth Girl's tongue, maybe. And he's reading poetry to her, and that's how we end.
That's the
Yeah.
end.
And we see
Yeah.
her, and we get a visual reference to Bride of Frankenstein with all the bandages
Yeah.
wrapped around her body.
And then like her
And then
eyes are all fucked up.
honestly, at the very end, this movie abandons any promise that it has and just pees right in your face. The ending was so bad. It was
Robbie and I are
so
shell shocked.
yeah. I am.
Yeah.
I mean, never was there
fully-
a tale of more murdering than Lisa and her Frankenstein.
Oh my god.
Lord.
Well
that is
done.
That is the ending that this movie deserved.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah. And then
Oh.
Amanda and I turn to each other in the theater and go, what the fuck just happened to
Yeah.
us?
That's
Yeah,
when
my-
Rafa
My
said
mouth
that was
just
weird.
open. I was just like, and I was the
Yeah.
last person to leave the theater because
Same.
I literally was
Yeah.
like, I don't know what I'm doing.
The
I don't know
cleaning
who I
crew
am.
came in. It was like
Yep.
sweeping us out while
They're
we
like,
were
"Yep,
like
bye,
screaming
guys."
about this movie.
Yeah,
Good
I
God.
watched that 9-year-old walk out. And I'm like, what does he think?
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, I'm just sitting there, and my friend of the pod, Katie, she had texted me about it the night before. Was like, it's wild. And then I sent her while I was sitting there the eggplant and the axe emojis. And I was like, that's all I have to say
Yes.
Yeah.
about
Yes.
this movie.
2 emoji
Yes.
review. Yeah.
Yep.
Emoji review, eggplant axe.
Yep.
And then like a speedwagon. Is there a
Yeah.
speedwagon emoji?
The famous
Oh,
speedwagon
Lord.
emoji. Yeah.
The famous.
We need one.
Oh,
Yeah.
God,
so
So that
what a
happened.
sad, weird, random journey.
It was amazing. I loved
Yeah,
it. And I
honestly,
hated it.
I
Have
did
a
too. I
tender
loved it, and
notes.
I was disappointed in it, but I don't think I
Yeah.
hated it. I was
No,
like,
I didn't hate it.
I also agree totally that this was immediately going for cult status. It wasn't going to be like, we want to be a good movie.
No,
It's
which
gonna-
is
we want
Mhm.
cult status, and I love
I'm into
that.
it.
Just a little tweak. You
Yeah.
know,
God,
let's pull it out of
just-
theaters. Let's do a workshop.
Just
Diablo,
a
we're
couple
here.
It
workshops.
needs a cat's re-upload. It needs its butthole cut removed.
Yeah.
It needs a cat's re-upload immediately.
Okay,
Yeah.
did anybody see that? Did anybody see opening
No, you're
weekend Cats?
the only one who's seen it.
I
To
don't
the
know
point
when
where
I
I don't know if
saw
it's real.
Cats.
So
I didn't
there,
see it yet.
I saw it. I don't know if I saw opening weekend. I should clarify.
I know
There-
about the buttholes, and I'm honestly sad that like that's got to be somewhere, right? I don't think I've
Yeah.
seen it on the
I
internet.
hate
somebody
lost
snuck that
media.
out.
It
I
had
know
to
Lost
be.
Media is
Agreed.
the worst.
It's like when they
Boom.
cut that Frozen short for thinking of Coco. I want everyone to sit through that. Yeah.
Listen, no, I disagree. I'm glad they
Mhm.
cut that. I'm glad I got to see Coco immediately. If I had to sit through 20 minutes of Olaf, I would cry.
Ugh.
I
fair.
also
God.
cry for different reasons when I watch that short. It's
Ah.
Lord God in heaven.
so our protagonist who did not protag.
Yeah.
This is
No.
where I asked, do
Her
we root
sin.
for her?
By the end, I was because I was like,
yes,
I just want this to be over.
Yeah.
I was rooting for her because I believe in the view that she has that all these people are mean to her, deserve to die. I
Mhm.
accepted that pretty early on because I'm like, this is absurd.
sure. That's the conceit of the movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like I just
Mhm.
need to believe it. And so yeah, it was fun to see these people get their comeuppance.
It was.
Mhm.
Except for Goth Girl. I think she deserved
Honestly-
to get her tongue cut out.
For me,
And maybe she did. We don't fucking know.
True.
It could have been a
Yeah.
deleted scene for all we know.
it felt
Fingers
like it
crossed.
had deleted scenes. The whole
Yeah.
movie felt like it
Yeah.
was
I want the
saying-
director's cut of this movie.
Yeah.
But yet there
I-
was a cut where we watched them switch seats in the car. Which I was like, why are we
Yeah.
dwelling on
Why are we
this
watching
cut?
this 40-second or 30-second thing?
Yeah, this felt like they didn't quite have enough material.
It
There
was
was
so
missing
confusing.
material. I
Uh-huh.
feel like this story, the script needed more time in the oven. I think the way
Yeah.
it was made was really good, but I don't think the material was all present.
Yeah.
Also, I think for me, I think that if you're going to brutally axe murder a young boy in a movie, I really do want him to be pretty nasty. And what he did was very, very bad and really, really gross. But like, what I'm saying is that the mother was threatening to send her away to an
Yes.
asylum and
Yep.
was murdered for that. That is
Yes.
direct threat response. She then takes a young man who had done a very vile, gross, unacceptable thing to her, but then she lures him out to a grave site to murder him with an axe.
It tracks for me. The only one that I feel like was truly not deserving was Michael. Who's just like an idiot who...
So, but I feel like
Taylor Swift says vigilante shit, you know.
The first one is very motivated.
Yeah.
The second one is
what Taylor Swift and Jesus would want,
but very, very brutal. It was you know, he is a teenage boy being killed with an axe. It is a brutal killing.
It would be better if he had survived.
Yeah.
The third one made no sense.
Makes no sense at all. And so each killing had a
it
little
more
bit
self-serving.
Yes, it was a darkness arc. It was a
which is the point. I just don't think that they did a very good job.
Exactly. I'm totally okay with this as an arc. I just feel like I wanted the villains to be a little nastier so that I could enjoy the comeuppance a little more. I wanted the motivation for her to be a little clearer so that I
really just think this is missing like 3 or 4 small scenes.
Yeah, like Douglas telling everyone at school that she gave him a blowjob.
Something a little bit nastier from him.
Finding that out would have been perfect.
Get me more invested.
Between her and Taffy about like the mom being murdered at the party to like
I really need the axe murderer to be revealed as well. Badly.
A reveal of the axe murderer, and then if we had gotten better background and establishment for the first 2 kills, even with the darkness arc, I would have been totally fine with the third kill. Be like, oh, now she's just got a thirst for blood, and anyone who crosses her in any way is fair game, because now she's sort of taught the monster that, and he's just gonna do what he thinks he's gonna serve her.
Very Debbie Ryan
insatiable.
Only have the monster there to kill Michael. That wasn't her intention. She wanted the other two.
She didn't want to walk.
Yeah.
So this is where I was trying to decide if she was more or less sympathetic than Veronica and Heather's. So the thing is, Veronica is kind of like not actively participating in the murders, or is like, oh, I didn't plan this. I didn't want this. But at a certain point, it's kind of like
culpable.
Yes.
I say less for Lisa only because Veronica had real character development, because Heather's is a good fucking movie.
Because Veronica is the one who steps in and stops it
all.
all.
To do something.
And the people are heinous. And then the one thing that Veronica has against her is her life is pretty good. She's just fascinated by JD. Whereas Lisa has this like Cinderella like existence. And she ends up going on a killing spree. So that was my debate.
And then has no consequences because she dies, but then is resurrected and is with the love of her life for all eternity because they're undead together.
You are 100% right. It is Heathers with no teeth. It is bad Heathers.
I think the teeth in this cultural zeitgeist right now is that she doesn't get comeuppance. Is that she is a bad person, and we're meant to think, oh, she is selfish, but she doesn't get comeuppance. And I think like the TikTokers are pissing themselves in rage that she doesn't. And I kind of
funny.
Shout out to El Diablo for that.
That is funny to me. I did not know that. That is very interesting.
I am just finally getting to the Lisa Frankenstein side of TikTok, mostly via targeted ads right now.
Yeah.
But it is a fun spot to be.
I did not know that. That is so funny. And what you were saying about the Hays Code earlier is like, when I'm saying this movie is toothless, I'm saying that like it almost abides by the Hays Code in that in its representation of things is very watered down.
Simple.
But then when it gets to the end, you're right, it does have sort of some transgressiveness in that it's like she's pretty bad and there aren't a lot of consequences for her, and that is kind of cool. Like,
she chooses her out. She's like, I'm deciding how I'm going out. I'm not going to prison.
And like somehow evades capture or a resurrection or whatever.
And her family.
I don't think they even move out of
town.
town.
Love her. Taffy still loves her and appreciates her.
There are
going to
a
her
lot of
graveside and paying her
there are a lot of things to be angry at this movie, and I don't think that's one of them. I think that the TikTokers might have their priorities a little bit skewed on this movie. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, I guess. Our last couple questions? Do we ship these two?
Yes, I actually think they have a lot. Considering he doesn't speak for the whole movie,
each other.
They somehow still had a lot of chemistry. I thought
they're both weirdos And I just want
I-
to give a shout out to Cole Sprouse. I think
He's great.
his acting from the transformative nature of his character
Yeah.
was
the acting
really
in this
well.
movie was
The
quite
physical
good.
acting was very good.
He was
I was
great,
very
man.
impressed.
I was
Yeah.
actually very impressed
And I
how much
thought
he did
Catherine
with a
Newton-
silent character.
I thought she was so charming, even in the
Mhm.
crazy stuff. I adored both of them. I was
Yeah.
so charmed.
Yeah,
So you
I thought the acting in this movie was extremely strong
Yeah.
and
It was
really
super fun.
really
They
fun.
knew what
And it
kind of
saved
movie
it.
they were
It
in.
saved it because they acted
Yes.
the shit out of a really loose story with
Yes.
not
They-
a lot to work with.
They knew what they were in. They were having
Yeah.
fun with it.
Mhm.
To answer your question earlier, do we root for the protagonist?
Yeah.
I don't think I do,
Mhm.
but I did root for the movie. I was
Yeah.
rooting
Yeah.
for. I was like, come on, you almost got this. You can get there.
Yeah.
I wanted to like this movie
You're doing
a
great,
lot.
sweetie.
You're
Yeah.
doing
You can
great,
do it.
sweetie.
You can do it. I was rooting for the cast, for the director,
Yeah.
for the movie itself. I don't think I was rooting for the character
I think by
because there
the
wasn't
end
too
I
much
was
of her
like,
there.
if I had to endure all of this, I don't want her to just die and be
Yeah.
done.
No, definitely
Like,
not. That was fine.
Go
Yeah.
be a monster. Like, you are a monster. You made it clear that you are a monster
Yeah.
in life. Now you
just wanna-
get to go be a monster in death. Great.
Yeah,
I just wanted
if
to-
she had gone to
Yes.
jail, no.
I just wanted her to
It
own
would have been
that.
such a
Yeah.
boring
Yeah.
end. I think they
Yeah.
ended it the way that they needed
Fine,
to. She needed to
whatever.
end up being resurrected and undead.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess our big question was that your fantasy?
I
I'm torn.
came into this. I was gonna say yes. I love this wild ride. It was crazy, but now I think about it and I'm like, it could have been better, and it could have been like, yes, this is my fantasy. This dark, twisted romance, Frankenstein zombie thing. Heather's like, it does need just some more character development, and then I would have been like, absolutely. So I'm on the fence. I don't actually have an answer.
I have to say it was not my fantasy, but that it inspired the fantasy of what I wanted
Yes.
from
Yeah.
this movie. And
Yes.
like, I obsessed about that so much more than what the movie actually gave us.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
so
So
the,
we
the
did
fantasy,
we did a whole
Yeah.
workshop.
yeah, the
Yeah.
fantasy for me
Diablo
lies in
Cody,
what
you
could
have
have
your
been.
info.
The
Let's go.
dream of what could have been for Lisa Frankenstein is the fantasy,
Yes.
not the movie itself.
Yeah, I agree.
My
Yep.
fantasy is that there's an alternate universe
Where
where
this
Diablo
movie
Cody did a
is
few more
good.
passes
Yeah.
in the oven of the
Yep.
script, and there is
The
an
studio
amazing.
didn't rush the film out. They're
Right.
like, let's take our time.
Can we
Yeah.
There
add
is a
4 scenes. That's all it would take. Please, God.
maybe 6, because I really
We
feel
can
like if we're
cut
gonna have an axe
down
murderer, we need to.
Switching spots in
something
the
with that.
car and add context
Yeah.
and reveal for the axe murderer. That would be great.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah. I that was so strong, Amanda. I'm just gonna yes.
Yeah.
What she said.
Okay.
So I'm gonna say that I generally just liked the movie and didn't really
Mhm.
have any like I would watch this both for just like, oh, this is a fun movie to have on at a party, but also like for shitty movie night with friends. I think this would also be fun.
This is
I
one
will
to show
watch
to
this a
people.
million more times when it's out on streaming.
Yeah.
I already can tell.
Absolutely.
This
Yeah.
is
This
gonna
is
do
one to show
so
people.
well on streaming. It's gonna do so well.
If is it my fantasy? I'm just really not a corpse fucker. Another strong stance from me.
Hot take.
So
Hot
bold.
take.
Do
I'm really
you
proud
do?
of you.
Take.
Yeah,
I
and
don't know. Controversial.
controversial, and in general, Cole Sprouse, alive or dead, he was
Not
great in this
into it.
movie, but doesn't do it for
Yes.
me.
Mm.
But he acted phenomenally. Yeah, so I'm gonna say in that sense, no. But I mean, it is kind of like a teenage fantasy to be like, what if everyone who was annoying just like got a chip in their face? You
Oh my
know,
God,
like,
Yeah.
and I think this movie plays to that. So that's kind of
Yeah.
where I'm landing.
Fair enough.
I love
So
it.
Robbie and Amanda,
Yes.
hey,
guys.
thank you so much for coming on.
Amazing.
This was a
Oh,
dream
you're
come
Thank you so much
true.
for having us. Sorry we kept you for like 100 years.
No, this is honestly,
talked
we're
about
doing
this
good on
movie.
time.
We're
We
doing
talked
good
about
on.
this.
Yeah.
We talked about this movie longer than the runtime of this movie.
Yep.
Yeah.
Holy
Mhm.
shit, you're right.
Which is
Yeah.
standard for me and Hannah. So we've
Right,
actually been
okay.
like,
Okay.
let's do a hard out. We're trying to be
Yep.
better.
Great.
So brief plug of passages and where people can find it.
Sure.
Yeah, what's passages all about? I know we've alluded and hinted to many a thing, but
So Robbie and I read romance or romance adjacent literature, and we try to pick the wildest, most unhinged literature. We're in our first season. We have read the book Scruples by Judith Krantz, and it's kind of like a book club where you don't have to read the book. We highlight our favorite passages and fill in the context in between, so you really do not have to read along with us. Sometimes it's encouraged not to, because we don't want to give some of these authors our money. But you can find us anywhere you get your podcasts. We are on Instagram at Passages Pod, and we are on Patreon at Passages Book Club.
And
Awesome.
it
What
is
a
so much
professional.
fun. What a iconic professional. And you actually get to some very interesting, deep topics in addition to like a glory hole bathroom. You know, it's like there's as like Stefan
You get to
would
the
say,
glory holes.
Yeah.
You know, of society, I guess.
The glory holes of society.
Yep.
This has everything.
This podcast does have everything. We have had some surprising conversations out of this absolute dumpster fire of a book that we've been reading. This book is shocking.
It's shocking.
It's shocking.
1978 time capsule. You know, you can't dredge something like that up and talk about it and not be fat shamed, not have some weird problematic nonsense in there every once
so
in a
much
while.
problematic nonsense.
This 202-pound monster of a woman.
Yes. I was like, cool.
Oh
Hi.
man. But so yeah, we definitely try to dig into it, to contextualize it, to try to grapple with it ourselves, but also just like some of the hardest I've ever laughed in my whole life is
We've been having a ton of fun with it.
Yeah, I've almost gotten into car accidents. Not actually, but just like driving. Like I'm like, I need to focus on controlling my vehicle because I am laughing so hard.
Passages Podcast does not have liability insurance.
Yeah.
So we do not accept liability for any accidents that occur while listening to Passages.
If you're listening to Passages Podcast and find yourself in a vehical accident, please scrub your iTunes or your iPod.
Please don't come crying to us, because it's not our fucking fault.
Yeah, please do not listen to Passages Podcast while operating heavy machinery.
Too late for that.
Legal liability.
Well, definitely check them out. Listeners, you can follow us over on Instagram and TikTok at NotMyFantasyPod. Also, if you are on YouTube, hello, it's our faces.
Oh, hi.
So,
oh no, they can see me. Oh god.
So you can go ahead and smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, and that notification bell so you get notified anytime we drop a new episode or video. And you can also go over to iTunes. I think even on Spotify you can rate us. So go over there, leave a 5-star review, and tell everyone about this podcast. This episode, so fucking crazy. You have to share it with other people.
Yes.
Because this movie is so fucking crazy.
You can just share the good word of
0
Diablo.
out of 10 and also 10 out of 10 do recommend.
Yeah.
I hated it. Go see it
Go
sure.
see it. It was really fun.
It's great that shit schlock movies like this are still being made.
Yeah.
Makes me very happy. Very happy.
True.
Genuine.
I was genuinely worried about the future of these movies.
It's true.
We'd only be watching people study spiders in the Amazon with someone's mom. You know,
it's so true. That's so boring. We can only take so much of that.
Yeah.
God help me. I cannot go to another super spider movie.
What, you're not going to see Madame Web on Valentine's Day?
Oh
no.
Bummer.
Wow.
I'm not.
Can't believe Valentine died.
I'm gonna go see Cole Sprouse chop a guy's dick off again.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go see Lisa Frankenstein again, obviously.
Yeah.
Lisa Frankenstein, see it twice to understand it at all.
Requires multiple viewings.
It does. It really does.
It's that third viewing that really shows
cerebral.
It's like a fine wine.
So tune in next week for our final episode of Supernatural Romance Month, where we will be talking about a new form of corpse fucking. Zombies with 2013's Warm Bodies.
Ooh.
Love that movie.
So, it's another one based on a book. Will I have time to listen to the book before then? We'll
Put it on
find
2
out.
times speed, baby.
Chipmunks read Warm Bodies too.
It's only 8 hours?
It's only 8 hours.
Oh,
long.
you can do it. You can do it.
So I think I might. So
You can do it.
fingers crossed.
We'll see.
We'll have fun with that.
Godspeed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you, listeners. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.